Okay, this meeting is being live screened. Okay. We're waiting for Zoo, for Grain. Grain will come in a moment. I'll stir my coffee while we wait for Grain. Wow, Grain taking a while to come, right? Beena?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, very interesting. So slow today. There's recorded joining call. Let's go and look at participants. See, because when you open the participant
No, it's
window,
two. No, it's two.
yeah, that's very strange. That's very strange. All right, no worries. I mean, if rain comes a bit later, that's fine.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
Hello and good morning, still.
Yes, hello, Beena. Hello, Beena. Good morning to you as well, Beena.
Yes, thank you. Hello and good morning, everyone, whoever is watching us live or going to watch it later or record it on YouTube. Today is Tuesday, and we are almost in the middle of the week. Okay, because we did on Monday. It's supposed to do the capital R reading of the story, but we were just into the story actually, and that story was unusual and interesting for me.
Which
I
story?
was holding the golf story.
Okay. So, but a context here. On Sunday, we didn't do the continue reading of the book, the last chapter, where we were, because we got involved with, Sher's poem, and that took up the whole thing. It was quite wonderful. So for this week, since we don't have the capital R reading go over, I'm reading a little sub story on Biella's golf adventure, the golf world story. Yeah, that's what.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes, and so yesterday we did that, and that story was interesting, unusual for me because it was other than my expectation. First, some statements from Biella, which were different. Not expecting those statements. I'm not saying that it remains same at the end. No, but I was just going through the story as the story was coming, and not getting into that presumptions like, okay, oh yes, I know Biella will do something. No, I was not doing this. I was trying to be as neutral as possible and trying to understand that if someone completely unknown to you come and do something like that or say something like that, how I'm going to respond to that. So I was trying to understand that. So it was not, okay, yes, Biella could be anyone. Okay, in this case, it was Biella, but that could be a complete BMN there. How I am going to react onto that. So that this is something I was practicing at that time.
Hang on. So hang on.
Yes.
Are you reacting to Biella's comments she made to Ursula, or to the BMN, or are you talking about the BMN's comments in the story now?
I'm just talking about Biella's comment to Ursula. Like, okay, yes, a few things were like, okay, oh, okay, so she said that, and then when she
Can you give an
said,
example?
okay, I did something. Yes, okay, like, okay, I did something, and I declared that I was it's a crime about misogyny and all those things, and I was just trying to be as neutral as possible, because if I would think it through the Biella's lens, then everything will start becoming like making sense, and then I would I was trying to be as neutral that, okay, yes, if someone is doing something like this, how am I going to respond to that? Because this is, again, it is coming back to me, how I want to perceive. I must not be, my understanding must not be dependent on the person. Like, okay, oh, if that person is doing something, then it makes sense. It will make sense.
Yeah, but Beena, you do have to take the context into consideration, right?
In
this case, that in the agglomeration, misogyny is a crime, right?
I know that. I'm just saying that, okay, how it is going to affect me, or how I'm going to feel, how I'm going to think, and I'm going to respond to that. So, and I was actually trying to get Biella out of that story and just think it as neutral as possible. That's why I was holding my feedback, because if I will start seeing things through the lens of new nobles, or through the lens of Biella, then of course all the things will make sense and I will not think differently. I want to think different also. I want to have that piece of being, and I want to practice and exercise that thinking outside the box and thinking different perspectives on that. Nothing is final, nothing is the ultimate thing. And this is what I'm practicing. I'm trying to practice that. That's why I was holding my feedback. And today, again, I'm going to hold my feedback, not because the story is not interesting, the story is not fun. Of course, for me, it is fun.
Well, all right.
But I'm holding it.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm holding it back.
Yeah. All right.
No, I'm just saying
all I'd like to say from my side, withholding feedback doesn't mean that you have to withhold enthusiasm. Two different things. Right?
Yes, it is different. Yes, it is. It is not. It is different. But I was just doing that, then trying to think in a different mood. That okay, how our mood or how our understanding affect our thinking and thought process. And of course, I want to see more on that. So I'm going to keep my mouth shut now, and I'm going to listen to this story because I want to perceive it in a different way. Though the story is fun.
Well,
okay.
Say the last part again, please.
And also, I'm going. No, the story is fun, but I'm going to just keep my mouth shut and then hold it and try to perceive it in a different way.
Wonderful.
And also,
wonderful.
I'm also going to eat while Seth is going to read.
I know. Not just yet, please.
How you just conspire to match the timing of my dinner with your brunch.
Well, just 1 or 2 more minutes here. So
no problem.
Before I start on part 2, real quick, Beena, what stood out for you in part 1?
Practicing authority. That was something like, okay, what Biella did. And she did that, well, of course, for reason. And this is something very, very interesting for me, because mostly innate good people, they feel scared of. They are super reluctant and hesitant to exercise their authority, and because of the danger of getting into a BMN mindset or getting trapped into the ego trap.
Brilliant. Absolutely wonderful takeaway. Sorry, keep going.
Yes, so Biella's practicing of that authority is something very profound and important for me, because if a person can exercise their authority without getting involved into any nonsense of BMNS or ego trap, then it's a big deal, because we all just curse the political system and the system in general, and we don't want to get involved into that. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. Oh, no, it's so corrupt, it is going to corrupt me. But if the system is going to be corrupt and stay corrupt, this is what everybody is just trying to get rid of. No, I'm responsible for myself. I'm not going to take the responsibility. I'm not going to involve in bureaucracy. I'm not going to do that. But this is where actually it is needed. We deliberately leave the vacuum, the void for the BMNs to fill in every important aspect of our life. Like
that's very important. That's very important. If we don't step up and assume authority when it's required, the vacuum will be filled by the BMN.
And then this is what we do, and then we sit in our drawing rooms and say that, oh yeah, the system is corrupt. Oh, these are BMNs. Oh, these are narcissists. And
we made space for them.
We made space for them because we were not feeling competent enough, and we don't trust ourselves enough. We don't trust ourselves enough that we are not going to get corrupted. We feel scared of exercising
the big point here is, the deeper point or insightful one, is to understand that you said something important. We don't feel competent enough. Yes, That is not a reason, right? That's not a good enough reason to not step up. Now, if you're among other good people that are sober and sensible and have good impeccability, good character, etc., right? Then that becomes a good reason. Yes. But if you are the most competent, even though you are not competent enough, you still need to step up. Correct? Because otherwise, somebody who is less competent even than you, or incompetent even worse, will fill the job. Right? And the BMN will fill it whether they're competent or not. Typically they're not, right? Because they so focused on their own agendas, they're typically not very competent. And they will then step up. So that's a very important criteria. So I can't do it. I'm not competent enough. That's not enough of a reason. Right? If there's more competent that are good, fine. Right? Even if the BMN is more competent, you still need to step up. Because they're not necessarily going to do the job according to their competency. They're going to do it according to their personal agendas, right? Whether they're competent or not.
Of authority.
Right,
the fear
right.
of authority and power and position
Exactly. And the fear of ego and immodesty and over self-evaluation, those fears need to be set aside.
These are the implications, okay, or the root cause. But yes, the mostly we have a fear that, okay, oh, I don't want to, because we feel scared of. Because mostly people say that, okay, I will become like that. So first thing is that lack of self-trust. And the second thing is also lack of self-honesty, because mostly we are competent, mostly we are able to, mostly we are strong enough to not get corrupt easily, but we still refuse to say that, and then we keep the void open for the BMNs to fill that. And even if not, okay, they will not come up deliberately. Universe is geared to fill the void. This is a natural law. Universe always geared to fill the void. And when we create a void by not stepping up because of any fear, because of any lackness, is you, then it is going to happen. So for me, that Biella's story about that, okay, she did, and she stepped up and she did, and she was not reluctant.
No. In this case, well, she may have been under other circumstances, but the universe engineered things so that in this case she had to, and the anger was necessary for her to go all the way and a bit overreact. That overreaction is what saved their lives, right? In retrospect, okay, she didn't know it at the time, but so this story is very subtle, right? In the first point that you mentioned, when I said to you what stood out for you, you said about this exercising, practicing authority. You didn't say stepping up. You said about practicing authority. Yes, those
exactly.
Okay. Now, I made a very particular nuanced point about practicing authority. In that, I could have written this, that Biella sees the problem, they get turned away so appallingly at the golf course, where they don't even ask for their handicaps, just because they're women, they get turned away under the assumption that they won't have this high handicap, right? And this is so outrageous, right? But she could have not reacted angrily and just said, hey, you know what, we're 18 and that's it, and play, right? Okay. So I'm kind of engineering a circumstance like I'm the universe here, because I want specifically to create a circumstance where Biella behaves slightly inappropriately, which is kind of unthinkable. Yes. Now, in two reasons. It's a lesson for Biella, but because Biella is generally impeccable, right? Or almost all the time. Before this, she was impeccable, right? And this was the first time something like this had really happened where she actually got angry. I want to make the point very subtly and very delicately that sometimes our inappropriate behavior is appropriate. Yes. In this case, now Biella feels bad about it. Now, just because that it turns out later to be right, it doesn't mean that at the time it was appropriate for her to do it, at least internally. Yes, it was appropriate externally in the bigger picture. But at the time, she had no way necessarily of knowing this. Maybe subconsciously really think it through. Okay, but still, that's why she feels bad. Even though it turned out good, she still feels bad. Yes. So she essentially abused the authority a little bit, in a sense, not in the authority part, but that's not the part where she wasn't impeccable. The part was as to the exercise of authority was appropriate. The reasons for it were also appropriate. However, the mood and the associated feelings, like she took a bit of joy in it, that was it. See,
Yes.
she was kind of sticking it to the BMNs, right? And that's like a bit
And
of
this is
personal
exactly where I'm
revenge
cautious.
or vengeance, right? And
This is
it's
exactly
slight.
where I'm cautious
It
now.
exactly. It's very slight, but but that there is, and of course Biella recognizes it and she feels bad, right? And she'll never do it again, even though it was appropriate in this instance. So it's very nuanced here, right? I mean, it's complicated, and I love this because it is precisely that level of nuance that we have to understand. At the time, yes, Biella, okay, yes, these guys really need to get it. I'm mad. So she's acting that tiny little bit inappropriate because of the being angry. Yes, but it was necessary because, like I said, it saved their lives and it got the whole thing set up, so it was appropriate. However, she can't excuse her unimpeccability in motivation because it turned out right. Yeah,
Exactly.
she can't. However, we must also be aware that sometimes, let's say she in the moment had said, "Wow, I'm really overreacting here. This is quite unlike me. What's going on here?" If she had treated her anger and overreaction as an anomaly, she would have done exactly the same thing. But now she's doing it because it's an anomaly, and not because she wants to stick it to them and kind of like you getting your just desserts, right? See,
Hmm.
same. She would have had the same anger, but she would have reacted differently. And impeccability. Oh, this is anomalous. Okay, let me run with this and use it. What does it lead to? Where does it go? Right? And what is it causing me to do? And what would I do being angry that I wouldn't ordinarily do? Right? And then she would realize, oh, going angry is to go all the way and to call in the fleet and to charge them criminally and lock themselves in there. Right? Uh, that whole thing, like I said, saved their lives, right? And also it led to more consequence, as we'll see later, going down, right? So this is very important, the whole thing. But I want to make that nuance that just because our motivations, our not so impeccable motivations, she wasn't unimpeccable, she wasn't bad, but she wasn't 100% impeccable either. Just because that turned out good doesn't excuse it. And that's why Biella feels bad. Yeah. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, when she said she was a hustler, this was the only time she did this, right? Uh, so she's kind of exaggerating a little bit. Okay, well, not just this one game, there were more games later, right? But on this planet, right? That's why she says she hustled. But we'll see how later how that comes in. So this is it's kind of a big deal here, we'll see how this all works out. Yeah, we'll see,
Okay.
we'll see. Anyway, so
So
I'll continue
exactly.
reading in a moment.
Before,
Continue.
yeah, just before you start, I want to say that, and this is very
Oh, please,
important for
please.
me
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead,
because
go ahead.
if I would accept everything as that, oh, it's just coming from Biella series, or if it's coming from Biella, or if it's coming from Self, or if it's coming from
Yeah,
Moreness, or Way-of-Impeccability, just because that I'm going to just follow that blindly, then I would be ashamed
yeah,
myself,
yeah.
because this is not what
Right,
I have learned.
right,
This is
right,
not what
right,
I
right,
am learning. This
right,
is not
right,
what I
right,
am actually looking
right,
for.
right,
So
right.
for me,
Uh,
that was
uh
the most important
yeah,
thing, and
yeah,
that
right,
this is where
right.
I was paying attention.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
even though if it is coming from Biella, no matter what,
Yeah, but
we
but
need to
keep
be
in mind,
scrupulous.
right, Veena, to be more exact
I'm not
here.
saying that okay,
It
it's negative. No, I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
saying
No,
that
I
okay,
know,
it
I
was
know, I
negative.
know, I know. But
Paying attention
the
is crucial. This is what I'm
yes,
saying.
yes.
Paying
So
attention to everything.
yeah,
Trusting
yeah,
without trust
yeah.
is the most
Right,
important thing.
right, right. Okay. Uh, let me. I'm gonna back up just a little bit here now. Oh, oh, okay. All right. I don't have to read the whole thing. Yeah. All right. Maybe. Okay. But so this is the key paragraph that she's explaining about the motivations here. We read this yesterday. I'm going to reread it now. Not that there's no reason not to do it, but it's important in this particular context here. I'm screenshot. Okay. So now, though, I'm going to add one tweak that was not this, right? Ursula regained most of herself and put the pieces together and says, the flow, the anomalies, the perfection of it all. Young Biella responded. That's the difference that I'm adding in here now. Did I'll say it again. Young Biella responded. Indeed, now I can see how that was really the most entirely appropriate course of action. I would not have then known the ultimately good reason, but I would have proceeded with a clear conscience because of the pressures and hints and clues and perfect setups were too innumerable to ignore. I have to mention the umpteen little things that all cascaded to force this eventuality. It was all way too neat. Illumini and I did recognize it then, but nonetheless, it was my motivations. Some of that odd and unusual anger was still in me. See, there she says it, but at the time, she saw other things as leading to this, but she didn't regard the anger as anomalous necessarily, even though she did feel it was odd at the time. She just odd and unusual. She didn't think of it as anomalous. Right? Young Biella continues. You see the difference, Beena? When you hear it as young Biella rather than Biella, it changes the whole frame of perception, yes?
Yes, but it was not there.
I understand that. That's why I'm reading it in now. Yeah. But because this is part of a longer story. And so, you know, I'll have to find a way that Biella, because now Biella's telling the story to Ursula. Yes. So she can't really say young Biella, but I'll find a way to bring it in. I'll find a way. Okay. Some of that odd and unusual anger was still in me and tipped the balance of my motivations. There was a small part of me that wanted to stick it to them. It did help ordinarily with the acting. When I ran the risk of losing it, I would tune back into that anger. So again, see, there's an anomalous to this, but she doesn't quite recognize it at the time. Almost, right? So she's one little tiny step away from making it all correct and not needing to feel bad, right? I have much more control over myself now, but still wonder if that anger was maybe not essential. I feel like I could do it now without the anger, but perhaps the men would not have been so goaded as they were. It's all moot, right? Because if you do it kind of coldly and you don't care, it doesn't matter. But her anger stimulates them even more for them to want to stick it to her, right? And that was important for the whole collapse of everything. But perhaps the men would not have been so goaded as they were. It's all moot. I knew I was pushing the limits of my ethics. Yes, there was that part of me that knew I was in the hands of something far bigger than me and that I was being called to play a part. But here was also that part of me that was that bit glad for it. The other blushed again. Oh, boo, she half sobbed. There is more. Worse. Oh, geez, Biella, blurted Ursula, reverting to the terminology of her old word. Don't tell me that. Although, of course, you just make me even more curious to know more. All right, let's hear what the worst is. Biella swallowed, continuing with the story. Actually, that kind of needs to be an ellipsis. We are on the first tee, and I stand aside, gesturing for the blowhard to go ahead, preparing to wait for him to finish before moving to the more forward ladies' tee directly in front of us away. Right. So this is now important that she set it up as a tournament, but because it's male versus female, the ladies play from the ladies' tees and the men in the rules of this particular tournament, right? And on a golf course, you have this, right? The ladies' tees are forward. In other words, the ladies' course is shorter. Even though, like I was explaining to you earlier about handicaps and everything, Beena, it still balances out, right? So you can play on your handicap against, doesn't matter gender, the ladies' tees take that
Mm-hmm.
the strength factor into consideration. Upper body strength, right? Right? So okay, so we are on the
Yes.
first tee, and I stand aside, gesturing for the blowout to go ahead, because this is typically what would happen. Even though there are rules of etiquette in golf, that if you win the hole, you go first, which is I'd rather go second, but all right, that's just how it works, right? And so, but because if the lady's the one to go first, then she has to walk to the tee, hit a shot, and then walk back again, so that she's not standing in front of the men hitting off, right? And it just wastes time. So typically, that's sort of, you know, okay, we skip over that, and the men go first in their order, and then the ladies go first in their order if there's multiple ladies, multiple. All right, anyway. So uh, moving to the more forward ladies' tee, directly in front of us away. But he laughs in a ridiculously idiotic laugh of self-satisfaction and makes a great show of making a utterly sarcastic bow and saying ladies first with as much derision as he can muster. Right? At this point, I'm having very, very serious doubts about what I'm about to do, as the practical realities of it all have come flooding in. I was contemplating letting him hit his shot to make it official, and then forfeiting the tournament and the bet. Oh, I'd forgotten all about that. Wow, wow, okay, wow, wow. That's rather interesting there. I forgot all about that. Wow. Ursula was about to raise her own butt when the other forestalled her. But that was when the blowhard made his lady's first gesture. I was so surprised because it is highly irregular and slows down the game tremendously. Yeah, as I would have to hit and then come back again to be safe. I was still thinking through what his possible motivations were, and had taken a few steps to see what was up, suspecting that he might call me back as an attempt to simply mess with me. When through that hideously demeaning laugh, he said, "No, no, from here, girlie." I was taken completely. I was taken by complete surprise at this. I was taken completely by no. I was taken. Oh wow, there were language there. I was taken by complete surprise at this. Okay, so what I said earlier about the tournaments, that would normally be so. However, she called it tournament and she didn't specify, and so now she has to play from the men's tees, obviously. You called for the tournament, remember? He said with fiendish glee, savoring every last drop of his venomous joy. But you simply said tournament, which here means standard rules. He hissed that rules at me, as if this was the vilest word in the universe. And to those men it was, as I had charged them all with the entire rule book at my disposal. I forgot all about this, so I must be careful of preempting myself here. So, ta, right here with me, girlie, if you please. I can't quite get that horrible meanness and venom into my voice that's appropriately, but I think from that you can kind of get the idea of how he's saying this, right? Beena, does it come through? Beena, where'd you go? Oh, she's eating. All right,
Yes.
never mind,
Yes.
never mind.
No,
You
no, no,
eat,
yes.
sweetheart. You
Yes.
eat,
Yes.
you eat,
Yes.
you eat. So does it come through from his
Yes.
how he says it, right?
Yes.
that that that
Yes.
that superciliousness and that glee, and that vindictive, spiteful meanness, right? So and this is why he's happy with the thing and why he didn't back out, because he clicked. Oh, she's got to play from the men's tees, and now this is like he's got a significant advantage because he knows he's he's worse than his handicap says, right? And well, anyway, they're not playing handicap because they're playing a tournament, and handicaps typically like this, the handicaps don't go out of the window, right? So you're playing straight up. So he thinks that she cannot possibly be an 18, but neither is he, right? So he might be considerably worse than an 18, and she might be, all right, not an 18, but there was also the chance that Biella actually was an 18. So he's in trouble. However, with his advantage of playing from the same tees, usually with most women, this is a significant advantage. However, as we'll see. Anyway, so yeah, with me, good. if you please. And with that, he did another of his ridiculously ludicrous sweeping bows. After you. You know, when people are over polite, when they're actually being really venomous and mean, right? That's what he's doing. After you, he added with the most degrading of lewd insinuations as he eyed my posterior with obvious degraded intent. Right? Anyway, so with that, the crowd who had been holding themselves erupted in the most utterly disgusting, mocking, and denigrating laughter, right? And catcalls and whistles and stuff. This they so loved, right? So to see, right? This they so loved. To see this uppity, this utterly uppity and overreached girl woman brought down and to fantastically show her place. Wow, wow, sorry, my editing needs a lot here in this. Anyway, right, so they really want to see her be shown her place, right? And there we go. And so fantastically shown her place, right? Place in inverted commas. All right. Biella laughed joyfully this time, enjoying this part of it now. I had to hand it to Blowhard. He played his hand to perfection. If I had not been playing a role, I would have congratulated him. Right? I mean, if they were like in a drama on Nobelia, because they do lots of drama reenacting, right? She would have said, "Man, you're doing this job really well. I'm playing this BMN Blowhard, right?" Because a Blowhard is a very particular type of a BMN, right? They're all bluster and stuff, and they're very egregiously outward, right? They're always very loud and all that, right? So Blowhard, very particular type of BMN, right? I would have congratulated him, but I had to contain myself. Inside, I was having a blast. Right? Very important point here. Inside, I was having a blast. Right? This is a mindset that new nobility mindset, right? Just because they are horror doesn't mean you can't enjoy yourself. That's independence of being. Right? Inside, I was having a blast. If those louts would have known that no matter what they did, it had absolutely no effect on me or Illumina. We had long ago learned the skill of being uninsultable. Right? Uh, there we go. Uninsultable. It's a very basic skill. It doesn't really take much to develop this, by the way. It is one of the prerequisites to being an aspirant, you were tested also, subtly, but you were, as all are, and will be again. Right? Now, the little nuance point here, Biella says, you were tested also, right? Subtly, but you were, as all are. Ursula's not even aware that she was tested in this, but she was. Ursula nodded, unsurprised. She had done similar non-obvious testing with her former employees, the insult test being one of her favorites, as it was so effective. You want to know where people are? Just test them on how easily they are insulted or offended. It tells you immediately, tells you tremendous about them. Yes, and especially if you have people that are going to be representing your company, like salesmen, right, or pretty much anybody, right? Anytime there's negotiation involved, if you can insult the other guy, you throw him off his game. Yeah, and they may say something really rude and obnoxious, and they have to apologize for it. Say, well, okay, just give me a better price, and then I'll forget about it. Very basic, simple tactic, right? Very underhanded tactic, but still very easy to use. So you give your people who are a little bit unscrupulous, you give them a massive advantage, right? And they may not even intentionally do this, but they may just see, they may be good people and say, well, then the person apologizes, well, sorry, what can I do to make up? Oh, give me a better deal. And you're not manipulating, you're just saying, okay, that's how you can make it up, right? So you may not even have wanted this, but they open the door. Thank you very much. Okay. Anyway, the insult test being one of her favorites, as it was so effective. She understood how, despite the overwhelming of that situation, Biella would have been emotionally unaffected. Right? The overwhelm of that situation, Biella would have been emotionally unaffected. The more they tried, the more amused she would be. If she were in the same situation, her challenge would be to not laugh out loud, no matter how purely. The insulters like that would be devastated at seeing their insults have not only no effect, but the opposite effect. It could lead to extremes of behavior, causing the insulters to commit potentially serious offenses, not to mention feeling so really bad that it was something that likely would stay with them and haunt them for a long time to come. So she's saying too, in the situation, if she had laughed at them, it would have been even worse, right? Then they would have gone to extremes to get at her. The fact that she was showing, at least through her acting, that she was bothered and angry and upset and, put out by them, they satisfied. They don't have to go further. They could just throw insults at her and, call her names and stuff like that, right? But if she was laughing at them, they would have taken matters a lot further, right? I mean, then they would have started throwing stuff at her, or might even ended up likely just, mobbing her and beating her up. Yeah. Okay. It's very hard to imagine when you don't know this type of thing, right? But ask somebody who has experienced this or seen it. They'll say, yeah, craziness comes over people and they do things that you would not expect them to do, right? And also, ethically, if she laughs at them, goading them to be even worse and do things which they get caught up in the madness, like, for instance, beating her up or even ending up killing her, right? Some people, well, they might not be all that bad. They might not be people who beat up people and commit murder in regular life, but they get caught up in the emotion and the crowd and everything, and now they regret it for the rest of their life. If she initiates this, knowing that it could lead to that, then ethically this is unthinkable, right? Ethically, of course, this was unthinkable for a new noble. It was the laughter from the crowd that changed my mind. Now she continues with the story, says Biella. For now they all had joined in, every last one of them, and with relish. They were all full accomplices of the blowhard now. Accomplices of the blowhard now. So that changed it, right? He's he basically dug his own grave by this, girly, and you from here, ladies first and on this tea and all this stuff, right? And all that mockery and the denigrating and eyeing her backside, all this stuff. They all laughed, every single one of them, and laughed hard. So sorry, at that time you don't have to laugh hard and really get into it, right? You had choice there. Now you're all in it. You're all accomplices now, right? They were all full accomplices of the blowhard now. Very well, so be it. Oh, this is for herself. Very well, so be it, I thought to myself. You have asked for this. And indeed the crowd had started chanting, do it, as I stood deliberating. Right? Uh, so that's very interesting. It's very interesting, yeah, how this, because this is agreements or confirmations from the universe, right? At many times like this, before you start, there are potential options to get out of it, right? Like she was going to call it off, and then he started with this nonsense that changed things, right? So then the crowd, okay, and now they're saying, do it, right? As I stood deliberating, a rather odd chant, but I could only take it as an omen to proceed. Okay, now yes, he uses the word omen rather than anomaly to proceed, right? Because in context, it's appropriate, right? Biella held up the finger of focus, right? This is the finger of focus, right? Not, hey, I want to say something. No, finger of pay attention, finger of focus. You see, Ursula, in order to do what I was about to do, I would have to play deliberately badly. So Ursula started, but cut it short. I mean, I would have to deliberately hit shots right into the crowd. Biella grimaced hard. Oh, Ursula gulped on Biella's behalf. Now I understand. Okay. So when Ursula, sorry, we go back up a little bit, right? And Biella said, "There's worse." Remember, that half sub of us. There's worse. This is what she's talking about, right? Yeah. Where was that now? Oh, all right. Anyway, uh, right? This is what she was talking about, right? And this is a big deal, right? Because when you play badly, um, you're gonna, especially if there's a crowd. Now, normally when you're playing, there aren't crowds lining the fairway, right? But when you're at a golf tournament, you better pay attention there, boy. I always stand on the left-hand side of the fairway because that's the hook side, best chance of on right. But and I stay out of the range of where the drives will land, so that it's safer. Because people do get into the golf balls. Now, they don't get killed by it, but still, even hits you in the head, knocks you out. Not fun, right? It hits you on your body, it's painful. Well, anyway, still, right? This is like a serious issue here now, because in order to work this whole thing and to play appropriately, and you'll see how it comes. Anyway, it'll self-explain. I don't explain. Oh, Ursula gulped on Biella's behalf. Now I understand. Now I knew I could mitigate this for the most part by hitting high looping shots that could easily be tracked, but still. Besides, for my very first shot, under all that pressure, I had to hit the very worst shot in golf, the shank. But I emphasize shank. Beena, golfers will appreciate this, because in some golf, groups and that, right? They don't even like you to say that word out loud. Like if you say it, it's not too strict. They say, I don't use that word. Don't use that word. Because it's a terrible shot, right? Usher now grimaced. Even I have heard of it from movies and such. Have you heard this word in the golf terms of the golf, Beena? Shank, to shank your shot? Or maybe Beena.
Yes.
You have heard this word, shank? You have heard it? Really? Wow. Okay. Anyway, so the shank is like really the worst possible shot. I mean, this is like the ultimate sort of humiliating shot to hit. Anyway, it indicates you are really, really bad. Ursula now grimaced. Even I have heard of it from movies and such. Biella nodded. That first shot would lock the impression of me as a golfer into the minds of the crowd, and by then the entire planet, as it now was being broadcast as well, live, right? Being broadcast live as well. Live is somewhat irrelevant here, but okay, just by emphasis. I had to not just be inept, but the absolute worst shot, and add humiliation on top of humiliation. The shank is a shot so utterly mishit. Oh, the shank is a shot so utterly mishit that it is struck with the hosel of the club and squirts off almost perpendicular to where the golfer is aiming. Right. So the hosel is that part that connects the shaft to the club head. Right. That little corner part called the hosel. Right. So that's what you're hitting. That's why it's called the shank, because technically that's like part of uh, the shank, the handle of the golf cart, right? And so that's why it's called the shank, right? Anyway, um, but when you facing forward, you almost going. It goes not quite 90 degrees, but just a little, like maybe 85 degrees, 80 degrees, something like this, right? So you're not even going forward; you're going sideways. It's like really horrible, right? The shank is so utterly mishit that it is struck with the hosel of the club and squirts off almost perpendicular to where the golf is aiming. It is low and comes out fast, particularly on a drive. Okay, so this is she's explaining the details to Ursula because it's a big deal. Anyway, particularly on drive. Anyone unfortunate enough to be standing where what would normally be a safe place was going to get hit. Yeah, I mean, normally you're standing to the side. It's quite safe there usually. Anyways, Biella shrugged. It was what it was. Yeah, it has to be a bit philosophical here. We'll see how it works out. The universe helps us. One of the most intense moments of trust for me in the universe ever. Ever. Yeah? And add another ever,
Yes.
Ever.
Yes.
I so hoped with all of my being that I would do as little injury as possible. Right? Can't avoid this. It's very necessary for what's to come. So I tear up, nervous, shaking a bit. That's hard to do, by the way. Right? All right. Now, this shanking thing is kind of helping her a bit, though. Right? I use the laughter inside, but when I get ready, I really did get a bit nervous about the shank. I focus on that and used it, making myself really nervous. By the way, all this editing, you get to see the point about write ugly, edit pretty. Yes. Don't care about how you write. Don't start, just write. Let the story come out. I was deep in my flow. And that's why you're seeing all these mistakes here. And you know, I tend to write my first drafts really well. Some people, their first drafts, when you try and read it from the outside, it's almost illegible, right? So, but doesn't matter. Write ugly, edit pretty. Get your story out. Very important.
Yes.
I focused on that and used it, making myself really and actually nervous, much to the delight of the crowd. There was no silence on that tee. Now this okay. With golf tournaments, you watch them, you see them tee off. Maybe you have, I don't know. But then somebody will there's the official, the tournament official, and they'll hold up a sign, silence please, or the hand, silence please, and everybody get all quiet. Biella chuckled. I actually prefer noise, as do I personally, me. So I prefer it too. Silence. Once hears every tiny little thing. My self-induced nervousness aggravated by thinking of the shot. Yeah, that really should be in a different order, but for next time. A deliberate shank is a deliberate shank is actually quite difficult to accomplish, especially to make it look unintentional. This is probably the most skillful shot that Biella's ever about to attempt to play. Right?
Mm.
This is really ridiculously difficult, right? Especially because you got to make it look unintentional as well. Right? I tried it, by the way. I went to the golf course in this and made an effort to hit some deliberate shanks. Very difficult. And to make it look unintentional, doubly difficult, right? And there's a triple further difficulty that's going to come now. Well, I fuss and bother and irritate and annoy the crowd no end. Because adding injury to insult, right? Until finally an official calls time on me. She knows it's going to come, and she's using this, right? Like she can't make up her mind, but now she has to. I yank the club back desperately, taking a wild, furious lunge at the ball, closing my eyes as I do so. Wow, wow, I forgot about this. Biella stopped smiling her tease at Ursula. And Ursula, Biella grinned. And I missed the ball completely. Rather obviously, right? The crowd went wild with glee and delight. Some literally fell over, they laughed so high. I was squeezing my eyes as hard as I could to be red with embarrassment. I'm enjoying this, Beena. I don't know why, but I enjoy this story very much, right? Just for the fun of it, right? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
Illumina, I love this part too. Illumina came over and hugged me, uh, rubbing and patting and rubbing my back and consoling me. She was being super supportive. I fully believe in you. Come on, you can do it, Caddy. She was being, the super supportive. I fully believe in you. Come on, you can do it, Caddy. It's hard to read, but I mean, to say, but when you read it, you can see what I mean there, right? So this is being a highly supportive Caddy. I fully believe Illumina perfected that famous scowl of hers that day. Right? She scowled furiously uh, at any hapless lout who dared meet her eye. So she's taking a bit of a different path here, right? Besides consoling me, Illumina was mortified at my mishap because she has to play her part, right? If she's like, well, okay, it happens, do it again, as if this was a normal thing, then that wouldn't make it as bad. But the fact that this is not normal and that they both embarrassed and she's annoyed adds exaggerated even more. She was mortified at my mistake. The blowhard had shouted loudly for extra amusement. One! right as I missed. Because if you're setting up with the intent to hit the ball, not a practice swing, right? You're setting up with the intent and you miss, it counts as a shot. You can't say, oh, I didn't hit it, it doesn't count. No, a lot of golfers don't know this and they think so. And a lot do know it and they try to get away with it. No, no, it counts. One, right as I missed. And he doesn't even wait till she's finished the swing. At the moment she missed, he shot it right there. Illumina hammed up her outrage. Just you wait, she shouted over the laughter at the blowhard. I must put that competence, right? Just you wait, she shouted over the laughter at the blowhard. I'll bet you miss as well. Right? Now, this is genius from the blowhard didn't take her up on the bet, but others had heard as Illumina intended. I was still on the clock. Shakily, I teed up my second ball. I actually managed to accidentally knock it off the tee with my nervousness, and that doesn't count as a shot, by the way. When you're standing there and you tap the ball and it falls over, that's not. She didn't make a stroke, right? No, that doesn't count, right? With my nervousness, it is just very embarrassing for people when that happens. Delaying me even further and costing me a time penalty of 2 strokes. That's 3 the Board performed with much delight. Illumina, meanwhile, never let up with, come on, Biella, I know you can do it. Love the spot. Anyway, the interaction between the two of them, the little drama that they played out, I don't know, just the fun of it was too cool. I mean, Illumina is getting into a part, right? So Biella inside is like, enjoying what Illumina is doing, and Illumina inside is enjoying what Biella is doing. Right? I mean, the tip off of the ball, the little tap there, it's like this bonus. You don't have to knock it off. It's like bonus creativity, bonus skill, right? Anyway, Illumina returned to her station up the fairway, staying on the right. I motioned to the crowd there to move even further back, including all of the gallery on the right-hand side, my confidence now completely gone. Some indeed, the golfers in the crowd, did anticipate the potential shank, thankfully thinning the crowd there, exposing a fleet trooper in full riot armor. So I was not worried about him. In fact, I tried to aim for him. Aiming a shank, though, is a gamble at best. The hue helped me. The trooper was standing in the most likely spot, giving me some measure of confidence. I again fidgeted and fussed, eventually ripping back my club with tears in my eyes, once more desperately swiping at the ball with all my might. Really terrible golf. Anyway, doing it deliberately, though. Biella paused for the briefest of a fraction. Just long enough to hint at teasing Ursula before continuing. She doesn't forget to do a bit of tease to Ursula. This time I hit the best shot in my life. Oh no! How the Ursula was half the no, right when you didn't want to. I love this. I love it. Sorry. I don't know, I'm just enjoying this. All right. Maybe I
Yes.
just read the story, but anyway. Biella
Yes.
continued as if she had. Say again, Beena?
No, I was just saying yes. Yes, it is interesting. So
You'd like to go on a trip. All right. Thank you, Beena. Biella continued as if she has not heard Ursula. Off sailed the ball, straight and true. She's messing with Ursula. You know what's coming, right? You know what's coming. You know what's coming, right?
kind
She's
of.
messing with Ursula,
Yes.
right? Right. Right.
Yes.
Off sailed the ball, straight and true, right where I wanted. Biella laughed. The perfect thing. See, turning it around. I cringed, waiting in horror and humiliation as the ball exploded into a water bottle held by the trooper, totally disintegrating the bottle, utterly drenching my ally. The crowd howled, quite literally. I ran to Illumina, burying my head in her shoulder, clinging to her in shame and humiliation. I was laughing so hard in relief I had to do something. I don't know how, but Illumina managed with a supreme effort of will to stay in character, consoling her sobbing friend. So cool. Dejectedly, I trudged back to the tee box. My ball had ricocheted backwards, landing to the side and behind the first tee, but still in play. That needs an exclamation mark there. Right? But still in play. Right? Do you see the horror of this now, Beena? Yeah. Because if it had gone out
Yes.
of bounds, she would be able
Yes.
to tee up again. But still in play.
Yes.
As I approached the blowhard pick moment, right? You gotta give him credit here for his, uh, you know, hamming up his blowhardness. Like he's playing his part to the hilt here. He's taking every advantage here. As I approached the blowhard picked this moment, proclaiming like a ringmaster, and again making that large sweeping wave at my ball. That's four. He paused with just the amount of hold. He paused with just the right amount of hold. And stole away. Right? When you say you're away, that means you to play, right? And stole away as I was further and than he was, and had to again hit before him. Further multiplied humiliation. Illumina came and joined me for support when I indicated that I was going to simply settle for a safe chop and try to chop it from the awkward lie, hoping to clear the tee box. The blowhard fairly glowed with smug self-satisfaction. This is what they expect, right? This is why they, to them, justifies their misogyny. All of this, right? Support them for that whole month, right? All right, we'll see. I don't want to preempt the story because I don't know what I've written at this point. I know more or less, but I don't know the details. So maybe I'm going to explain what's coming, and I've written it, right? So anyway, I'll bet you're not so happy you took that bet now, are you? He mocked. Illuminate, infuriated, grounded on him without thinking, bawled at him in defiance. I'll take that bet. Much of the crowd had heard, and they roared with laughter. Again, playing to their expectations of egotistical people, right? They roared with laughter. Illumina, totally humiliated, turned on them and shouted defiantly, and I'll bet every single one of you loses also. I really should put that all caps here. I think so. Emphasis on emphasis. Oh, well, there was a way that you could do it in all. All right, well, I'll just put it in emphasis then. And I'll bet every single one of you loses also. Illumina was instantly mobbed by odds makers who had materialized in droves. Now, this is that I was saying that setup, right? Where you've got official betting. And if you want to bet, then you go through the odds makers. You don't just do it between yourself to avoid the trouble that comes from betting, right? So the odds makers who had materialized in droves. The betting action was furious. And after my completely disastrous start, the odds against me scored. Right? And after my completely disastrous start, the odds against me soared. Right? And this is part of the intent here. Right? She's hustling, remember? She said she's a hustler. She's hustling them. She's deliberately playing badly. Odds makers, as is typical in most of the ag, don't actually take the bets themselves. They simply reflect public sentiment as best they see it. Right? So most odds makers, like if you go to a bookmaker at a horse racing course, they figure out what the odds are and which horses they think will win or not. Right? And they don't purely go like you've got the I think they call it the pari-mutuel, which is the automatic betting, which purely reflects the odds depending on how many people bet. Right? So more horses bet on, the lower the odds go. Right? So so there's no personalness involved, and that's these odds makers are like this here. They're just there to take the transaction and get a little cut out of it for doing this task to make sure it goes efficiently, right? Or they may even be paid by the ag. Anyway, they simply reflect public sentiment as best they see it, setting the odds and taking bets on behalf of the public, operating as a public referee to avoid disputes and welshing on bets. Okay? Once authorized, they had full authority to pursue a bet to the fullest extent of a bettor's credit. Right? This is a very significant aspect of this betting, right? Because people will sometimes make bets and then don't intend to pay, and it kind of kills the whole thing of everything. You're gonna make a bet, take it seriously, right? Don't mess about, right? The ag took betting very seriously, took betting seriously, very seriously. It was impossible to avoid, but the severe consequence forced responsibility, right? And again, you're forcing, this is something that the new nobility proposed because it forces impeccability, right? If people can get away with stuff like this, and this is a very small start of it, right? This is easy to get away with. Then they sort of get a little bit inured to unethical behavior, right? Because it's just unethical. It's not illegal necessarily. Well, at least in the ag, it is. Yes. Anyway, so just a simple thing that encourages people to be impeccable, right? And then you don't even think of wealth, it's unthinkable, right? And so this now you get into the habit of if you do something, you mean it, you deliver it. So a little small extra, that's just me throwing this in here for my own moreness, right? That's nice, right? You think it through, it's like, oh, okay. Illumina, as you know, is a most elegant dresser. In those days, we of course did not yet dress as new nobility. Illumineers pensioned for expensive clothing paying off handsomely. As the crowd surged to bet against her, right? Because they now think that, she's got money, obviously. None doubting her ability to pay. For the odds makers, it did not matter. If a Lumineer were to lose, they were to take her total assets. If it wasn't enough to cover all the bets, uh, they divided it out proportionally among the bettors. The crowd didn't care. If they only received a partial payment, bankrupting Olivia and by proxy me, was all they cared about. Yeah, makes sense, Beena? Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
Oh.
yes,
Okay. Taswa responding to you. Right? By
yes,
Okay. All right. It was all they care about, right? Uh, let's see. This must be David. Divided out proportionally amongst all the bettors. The crowd didn't care. I'll continue reading in a second there. Okay. And don't you worry about me, Illuminia shouted boldly, going all in on her friend. I have excellent credit with the agglomeration. The odds makers checked and verified that indeed she had. Wow. Okay. Via Biella, she does, right? It was not credit we would ever have availed ourselves of. It came from those friends in very high places of mind, who had also become Illuminia's friends. Some even more so than with me. All of those friends would have most heartily enjoyed what we were doing. Word spread like wildfire. The surge of the crowd so overwhelming that it prevented me from playing my next shot for a short while. I proceeded to hack my ball with a safety shot across the tee onto the ladies' tee. Of course, deliberately. Much to the delight of Blowhard, who, of course, pronounced, "That's 5 and laying in the ladies' tee." Yeah. She's giving him all the opportunity. But now his time had come. Yeah. In the mass of betting, some who had heard Illuminia's bet about Blowhard missing the ball had taken her up on it. Even though it had been directed at Blowhard, she had allowed the bets. Blowhard himself had quietly placed one such. He was not used to playing in full scrutiny, confidence in his game not as high as he would have liked. He did not relish how poorly his game would show, but he felt beating the uppity witch would redeem any shame of his poor play. He would be the hero, right? And most watching didn't really know really what about his handicap and all that. Most that were yeah, some were golfers, but many weren't, right? So it didn't really matter much. He'd get away with it. The fact that he'd been artificially, essentially cheating on his scores to have a lower handicap. They're called vanity handicaps. People really do this. Right? They put in artificially low scores to have a better handicap than what they do. Now, of course, when you're playing in handicap competitions, this works completely against you. But they don't care. They just want to look like a good golfer. Isn't that ridiculous, Beena? That's BMNs. They do it. Right? It's not that uncommon in golf too. I mean, it's even got a nickname, right? So anyway, it's not common, but it's not like just rare, right? Anyway, Lohard stepped to his ball with a look of cunning. He was so far ahead, a safe shot was all he needed. He took a half swing and safely bunted his ball onto the fairway. And this is very crafty of Lohard here, right? Because if you're not a good golfer, a drive is one of the shots in golf that has the most chance of going askew and wild, and you could hit it out of bounds. Typically, if you higher than an 18 handicap, the risk of hitting it out of bounds is fairly high, right? So since he doesn't need to do this, this is actually very strategically cunning, and it's amazing how high handicap golfers cannot do what he just did here, right? They can't play a safe shot, that's a shorter shot. They want to have that maximum go for glory, even though there's effort reward. Yes, if you hit a good one, you score, but if you hit a bad one, you get a stroke penalty. And now, if you hit it out of bounds, one shot that you hit, one stroke penalty for going out of bounds, and then you're still on the tee and you're hitting your third shot, right? So Biella's on her tee and she's laying 5 already. Yeah. So it's like, wow, he's got a lot here. So very, very cunning of him. And it's so, but the sensibility here for him, it's difficult to do. And also, he didn't want to risk this bet that he was going to miss his shot, right? So this is safe. So he wins some money here. He took a half swing and safely bunted his ball onto the fairway. He had lots of cushion, but showman that he was, he could not resist calling the odds makers to proclaim his winnings on the tee shot bet to the crowd and the planet-wide broadcast. He had placed the same sized bet as against me, a large sum, right? So he makes some money here. The odds against him missing had been considerable. When he announced his considerable winnings, a little fortune, the crowd went wild. Lohard fed the frenzy by making a big show of placing all of his considerable winnings on himself. Now, very important this, right? If you think about what Biella and Illumini are up to, fall into the trap, Lohard. The odds makers could be seen taking bets via their comms. The entire planet now starting to get in on the action. Wow. I walked to my ball and dejectedly picked it up, forfeiting the hole. Okay. So they're playing match play, like I was explaining to you earlier, Beena, right? So not score, right? So he gets to be 1 up now, right? Yeah, the scores are irrelevant. Okay. I wanted to take the fewest chances of the broadcast audience seeing just exactly what the poor golfer Blowhard really was. Right? So he plays 1 shot and he wins the hole. Right? Because she's laying 5 and she's behind him, and whether it's not going to be a par 3 because then it would be hitting to the green. Right? So it's either par 4 or a par 5, which that if Biella was an 18 handicap and it's a par 4, she'd be expected to play it in 5 shots, right? And similarly with him, but she's already 5 shots behind, and he's there in the fairway. Okay, he hits another bunt, and he gets short of the green. He chips it onto the green at 2, 3, 2 putts, 5, right? So to him to get a 5, and Biella's lying 5, so she can't do better. She's going to be 6 or 7, 8 at best. Yeah, she's got no real chance here, right? He could play it very safe and still win, but she forfeits so that he doesn't have to show how bad a player he is, because then the bets will go down because the people, the bettors are thinking he's better than he actually is, right? So she has to keep this up, right? His half shot, uh, his half shot from the tee, right? Because like I said, that's quite a strategic thing. Had made him look a lot better than he was. The large winnings he bet, making him look even better. Yeah. Oh, I'm hearing stuff, Beena.
Okay, sorry. Sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. Still hearing it a bit. Okay, there we go. The large winnings he bet, making him look even better. The wagers against us were coming in furiously, and the odds against them going up even more, right? Blowhard raced off down the course in his customized glittering golf cart. Right? He's got this obnoxious golf cart as well, waving derisively at us as he sped away. Just easy to insult. Yeah. Forcing in I to hurry. We were still behind on the clock. Picking up my ball, however, would reset the clock. So another thing to import, right? The next hole was a par 3, which means that your first shot likely will, if you do it right, you land on the green and you got 2 putts, right? A bit of water immediately in front of the high tee with a generous green surrounded by large landing areas and bunkers. Right? Blowhard was teed up and ready to go, hitting even before we fully arrived. He was eager to collect his anticipated win. I teed up shakily, the jeers and mockery taking its toll, supposedly. You know? Chants of water came at me, the entire gallery rooting for me to find the water. Unskilled golfers being known for hitting it in exactly where they feared to hit simply because of the way they focused their attention. Isn't that amazing, Beena? Right? Like on these water holes, if it's on a regular hole with no water, they can hit that shot that would have cleared the water quite easily. But when the water's there, they hit it in the water. Fascinating.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's known in golf, right? This your attention focuses, right, and you can't do that. Very interesting. One of the reasons the new nobility love golf so it is a powerful mechanism for fine tuning the mind. Yes, it is an incredible. Just for this one reason, I was explaining to you many others earlier when we were talking about golf, right? But this is just one. My challenge was to make my poor play look realistic. Yeah. Ursula, I do not need to put my play in context. Sorry, Ursula, I do need to put my play in context, which means I have to toot my horn a bit, but it is necessary to appreciate what was involved. At the time, if any of those chauvinistic misogynists had bothered to do a bit of digging, they would have discovered that my handicap was +6. This needs an exclamation. A very high handicap. Not to brag, but I believe I was the amateur with the best handicap in the ag at the time. Right? I could easily have turned professional. Right? That's like the typical handicap for professional. Right? I could easily have turned professional. I certainly had been courted enough. Because when you play really well as an amateur, a lot of the companies will come and try and get you to go professional because then they'll sponsor you to do this. And because you now then become sponsored by them and you play with their equipment and wear stuff, right? That's a very important deal, right? That's why she got courted, right? I'd certainly been courted enough. But I knew and understood that as much as I loved golf, it was not my true heart's passion. It is very important that she turns this down, right? I love to play against myself. I did not particularly enjoy competition. I did well, but in situations where my excellence led to others being unhappy, did not appeal to me. Yes. Right. This is very important to understand this. Right? Not everybody gets this. In the superiority culture, where winning is everything, how can you give up the opportunity to win? This is crazy. Right? They can't comprehend this. But of course, the new nobility understand this very well. Right? I did well, but situations where my excellence led to others being unhappy, did not appeal to me. Right? Not at all. The new nobility do not play golf that way. They do not even compete in the same way. They do compete, but there's no winner and loser. Technically, yes, but it is not important. This is a very important point. Technically, yes, but it is not important. They focus on leveraging each other to heighten skills and artistry. The skill or artistry in play. The skill of artistry is the skill of artistry. Yeah, that must be all. The skill of artistry in play is the most highly prized. There are many new nobility golfers that are not particularly skilled as far as golf itself goes, but their skills at extracting joy, fun, or amusement is inordinate. They are a delight to play with. Some of those who have honed the skill of extracting comedy from around the golf, uh, from around golf are difficult to play with sometimes. One is simply laughing too much. In the ag, in the ag, the new nobility are much prized are much prized uh, as golfing partners and host many charity golf tournaments. Yeah, it makes sense, right? They'll be really fun to play with. And and again, I was exceedingly positive when I played golf. And so I was sought after as to play with that unrelenting positivity. Yeah, it really adds. It adds. Because a lot of people they hit a bad shot, they curse and scold themselves, and it just makes for miserable playing. They don't even realize it, right? I digress because one of my alternate golf skills I had developed before I knew of the new nobility doing this was to play deliberately badly. Oh, what's this come about now? Huh? But to do so in a realistic manner. Why? For me, it came from not wanting to embarrass my mother's clients when we would go and play when I was a child. I had noticed my mother, Sylvie, do this. She too was an excellent golf teacher. Actually, actually not excellent. No, phenomenal teacher in everything. Actually, an excellent, no, phenomenal teacher in everything. Yeah, Sylvie was a very phenomenal teacher. She was a good golfer, but not exceptional. However, regardless of the play level of their clients, she always managed to score within a few strokes of them, spreading out the losses and defeats slightly in their favor. If she won, it was her lucky day, right? If they won, they had played well. There's some capital diplomacy dealing with people who are deep into the superiority paradigm. Over time, right, some of them will see this and she'll let them know and they'll click, and when they're ready, then she'll let them know, right? It's not something she'll do forever, right? All depends, but you have to ease into it sometimes, right? You can't just go directly there. Real long-term capital diplomacy, right? If they won, they had played well. Her clients were mainly politicians or top leaders of various kinds. It was a remarkable skill. She explained it just happened. That she simply set her mind and it came about. It made sense to me. Sylvie's ability to attune to another is inordinate. Her incredible consulting skills a result of this. So she didn't even have to think about it. She just essentially set the intent and it happened. Right? That's why she was never acting, as it were. Right? It was perfectly natural, and there's no dishonesty in it. Right? It's just a matter of appropriateness. Right? It's very cool. I like this ability, seeing its advantages. Yeah, I think that's very cool. Yeah, especially being able to do it via attention, right, and intent. However, simply setting my mind did not work for me the way it did for Sylvie. I simply played well no matter what. It became a challenge for me, one I was determined to master. At the time, I was a very good golfer, but not exceptional by any means. However, my mini obsession with learning how to precisely hit poor shots on demand which is actually much more difficult than hitting good shots, led to me becoming a phenomenal golfer. So see how the universe works? And by the way, if you are playing golf and you wish to improve, start playing and practicing to deliberately hit bad shots. Now, not shanks necessarily, but to deliberately slice, deliberately hook, and deliberately hit a low shot, right, etc. Right? Because now you are exploring the boundaries, and through exploring the boundaries, you know where the center is. Yes, very, very, very useful, really powerful skill. I mean, really highly part of when I coach people in golf. Yes, I'm a very good golf coach also. Yeah, because I coach via conception, not detailed technique and stuff like this. And for really poor golfers, that this is what makes you a poor golfer is inappropriate conception of what it is that you're doing. It's lack of clarity of intent. This is where this conceptuality actually originated, by the way, Beena, through golf, right? And understanding that when I started to conceptualize and changed my conceptions and unhooking from the default beliefs of what I should be doing, that's when my golf took a leap. Yeah? And then I started to do this deliberately. And I've helped people tremendously by simply shifting their conception, not having say, hold it like this, do this, and giving the exact technicalities. That's hard to remember. If your conception is flawed, what follows is also going to be flawed. Right? It doesn't matter all the technique in the world, not going to help you if your conception is flawed. And not just flawed, but completely wrong and the opposite of what you think you should be doing. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yes.
It really, that's why golf is so important, right? And I can't get enough of how important it is. It's an incredible spiritual activity of capital P practice. Unbelievable. So many things, like that thing of hitting it into the water, right? Yeah. This led me to becoming a phenomenal golfer. I honed my skill to the extent where I could deliberately play to any handicap level. That is a real accomplishment. I mean, that's as much as accomplishment as becoming a professional golfer. Like I explained to you before, and like scratch golfers are like 0.1% of all golfers are scratch. Then of those who are professionals, you have 0.1 again. So it's like the percentage of professionals relative to the entire golfers is proportionately, it's ridiculously tiny, right? I mean, it's beyond tiny, right? And not many people realize this, how small a chance you have of being a professional in any sport, really. This ability led to a control I never otherwise would have had. It's a very, very powerful thing here that we have. That's very cool. But, of course, it was golf with grace. Now, remember, this is the name of the book that we're reading. This is a little extract, little sub-story in the book, right? The book is called Golf with Grace. Golf with grace, like emphasized, right? Not graceful golf, no, golf with grace. But it was golf with grace that truly led me to move into professional level, phenomenal quality golf. Now, very, very cool stuff here. But I digress. The point I'm trying to make that to play poorly and to play to a specific level is truly a fantastic challenge and takes inordinate skill. Now, so many typos. Yeah, I think I'm going to give up on doing the typos, Beena, because it's kind of it's disrupting the flow of the story, right? It's too many for me to keep up with, right? Making it look natural and unintentional, an additional skill. I teed up, making a typical novice mistake of teeing the ball way too high when they faced a hazard that they had to go over, right? So you think the higher you tee it, the higher you're going to hit it to go over the water, right? Again, conceptual mistakes, right? But you see how it works, Beena? Yeah. In terms of this understanding. Anyway, I teed up, making a typical novice mistake of teeing up the ball way too high when facing a hazard they had to go over. Right? I showed every effort of trying to get myself under control, taking measured practice swings that looked fairly good. This often happened with players who had not mastered their minds and moves. they made really good swings at the club, right? During practice swings. But when faced with the pressure of actually connecting with the ball, their ego and trying too hard and a whole host of character issues would inevitably derail their efforts. Remember, I was explaining to this with Poffy van der Merwe. It is my acute understanding of psychology and the practical philosophy of conception that allows me to play deliberately poorly with such conviction. After my fairly decent practice swings, I lined up the ball nervously, repeatedly eyeing the water. I should put eyeing in inverted commas here, right? You have to see this, Beena, when people are right. They're trying to avoid looking at the water because they kind of know they shouldn't, but they can't help making those little nervous glances at it. You know what I'm talking about, Beena? Right? Can you picture it? Yeah. All my attention focused there. A self-fulfilling prophecy, if ever there was one. Right? And I've seen this too many times. It's quite amusing, really. And a lot of golfers will quite mercilessly, tease the poor hapless golfer who is in the same situation, but genuinely so. Right? I swung. My swing, nothing like my practice swings. I was clearly attempting to scoop the ball up and over the water. Right? You can imagine this, right? Like you're scooping upward to try and scoop it up over the water. Right? The reality being that I
Yes.
swung under my too high teed ball. Right? Okay, so the ball is typically you'll tee it on a shot like I won't tee it very high or if tee it at all, but now she's got a tee too high and she's swinging underneath it somewhat, right? The reality being that I swung under my too high teed ball, clipping the bottom of the ball with the top of my club, just enough to cause it to plop weakly forward, taking a few hops before disappearing off the end of the tee and rolling down into the water hazard. Terrible. Water, water, came the chant through jeers and hoots of mocking laughter. A splendidly ignominious shot. I was delighted. A tricky shot to get just right. My true skill that day lay in my acting as it did for Illumina. Since it was a water hazard, I could elect to re-hit from the tee box or drop in a designated drop zone on the other side of the water because they know this, right? The game says, well, if you force people to keep hitting, they just keep hitting it into the water and it slows down the game. So they give you, it's like a little chalk circle, and then you go and drop your ball there near the green somewhere, and now you're lying 3, right? So, okay, right? Instead of just, hitting 2 from the tee. Yes. So, and you could hit 2 and land on the green, which is better. Well, you're still gonna hit 3 because it's one in the water, 2. But if you drop, you get that penalty. Right? Anyway, a tricky shot to get just right. My true skill that day lay in my acting, as it did for Illumia. Since it was a water hazard, I could elect to reheat from the tee box or drop in a designated drop zone on the other side of the water. The better option, but in my apparently mortified embarrassment, I either forgot about this option or was unaware. I was so rattled that I hurriedly teed up my ball again, trying to get the agony over with as quickly as possible. This time slightly lower, but still a bit too high. Before Illuminia's just too late reminder of my drop option reached, uh, or my drop option reached me, I I swung hurriedly, making fairly decent contact, but again swinging up at the ball, surely in a high pop-up, resulting in a high pop-up that splendidly simply went up, 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 and too slowly, it seemed, plopping itself precisely in the middle of the water. All to thunderous applause from the delighted gallery. They're being cheeky now in their meanness, right? They're applauding my shot. I was now already lying 5 and would be hitting 6 from the other side of the water. Blowhard was lying. No, you don't hit when you hit into the water. That's not your second shot. That will be your third from the tee. You either hit your third from the tee or the third from the top box. But then, Blowhard was lying 1 in the bunker at the edge of the green. Even if he got out of the bunker poorly and took 3 putts or even 4, he was sure to win the hole. However, I had noticed a look of trepidation from Blowhard when his ball had landed in the bunker. Many unskilled golfers have an unreasonable fear of bunkers. Right? I mean, probably as a non-golfer, you'll go, oh, bunker, it's like terrible, it's like disaster. No, actually not. They're actually they're sometimes a preferable place to be than in long rough because it's consistent. You know exactly what you're getting. In deep rough, you don't know and you could be blocked and all sorts of stuff. But most amateur golfers, they don't think so. Anywhere but the bunker, right? Bunker is one of the worst places for them to be, right? Many unskilled golfers have an unreasonable fear of bunkers. Blowhard seemed to be one of them, and likely would be, yes, because like, there's a sort of humiliation factor when you hit the ball and there's a big puff of sand and it doesn't go very far and it's kind of like looks very lame. He could easily take half a dozen strokes to get out. This happens, literally happens all the time. This I did not want. I wanted to maintain his image of a much better golfer than he actually was as long as I could. So what's he going to do? Oh, what's the use? I said dejectedly to Illumina, who encouragingly said, when it's gone, it's gone. Don't waste your energy chasing it. Actually, very good advice, right? Splendidly poor advice that sounded good to us in the circumstance, but it's actually in a reverse way. It's poor advice in the tournament, but when you're playing, like in tournaments, I would really win a disproportionate number of tournaments when I was partnered with with higher handicap players because I would coach them in a subtle way, like this, to say, don't if you give it up when you're not there, and just don't chase it with bad energy and save your energy for the next one. It's very successful. It really worked very well. Anyway, splendidly poor advice that sounded good to us in the circumstance. Illumina is such a fabulous actress. It is a tremendous fun. It is tremendous fun interacting with her when she does. She completely immerses into her role. We shuffled off towards the next hole. Yeah. Do you forfeit? Blowhard greedily asked. Yes, yes, I mumbled. It is belatedly added. Again. The next hole, another par four. The first hole was a par four. A short dogleg to the left with close out of bounds to the right. A classic trap slices. Swinging right to left across the ball with a square club face causes it to slice to the right. Golf is a fantastic game of opposites. That really should be in like this game of opposites. It's incredible. It is absolutely incredible. If there's one thing you take away from this if you're not a golfer, right? Be aware that golf is a game of opposites. Start doing pretty much everything that you think you should be doing, do it oppositely, and then you'll see. Right? Look like slicing right to left. Your club face is moving from the right hand side if you're looking down the fairway, from the right hand side across to the left hand side. You would think the ball would go left, wouldn't you? Beena? Beena? Yeah, maybe Beena eating or something. All right, anyway. All right, so one would imagine sort of like obvious logic. But if the club face stays facing straight down the fairway, you put spin on the ball. And if the club face does angle, then you'll hit it left. Yes, that will be a pull goal, right? And likewise, the other way would be a push. But when you get that spin, like if you know from playing table tennis or tennis, and you put spin on the ball, or even soccer, right? Bend it like Beckham. Spin on a ball makes it curve. Anyway, so that's how you come to have a slice. Slicing and hooping being excellent such examples. The way the whole setup faced the players straight down the fairway, dogleg to the left combined with a trouble close to the right to promote an inadvertent right to left swing across the ball, so making your natural tendencies even worse. Blowhard, believing he had enough length to carry the dogleg, set up so deliberately, set up to deliberately hit a hook to run around the corner of the fairway. Right? That's very good strategy here, right? To do this. Typical of many unskilled, wealthy players. He had evidently had plenty of lessons. Something had stuck. He succeeded in hitting a hook, but overdid it, landing in the rough off to the left. Trees blocked him, but not a horrible position, considering the possibilities of the hole and our skill levels. So he's still in play. He hasn't incurred a penalty. Okay, you chop out onto the fairway and you continue playing. Not terrible, not ideal, but not terrible. Very typical kind of what you'd expect from that skill level. Right? I teed up with trepidation, attempting not to look at the out of bounds, having apparently received such advice from my caddy, Illumina. The chant started. Out, 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 making it difficult for me not to look at the forbidden zone. I valiantly resisted, hitting what would otherwise have been a fairly decent slot, a lowish, weak slice that just barely managed to clear the out of bounds fence. A barrage of highly sarcastic bad lucks assaulted me. Because she didn't hit a terrible shot on a fairway with the out of bounds, wouldn't have been close, she would have been in bounds and would have been an okay shot, right? She just managed it. So typically, if you've been playing with other regular players, it was hard luck, mate. Too bad. Right? A barrage of highly sarcastic bad lucks assaulted me. Again, I was lying 2, hitting 3, with a penalty for hitting out of bounds. I could drop when my ball had crossed the fence, but dense thick grass made that an unenviable option. I adjusted my stance, aiming my body more to the left this time. A classic mistake, aggravating the possibility of an even bigger slice. I delivered, as predicted by a few wags in the gallery. A beautiful, sharply curving, sharp slice. Sharp slice. Wow, what to say. Uh, uh, strong slice. I have a close repeat there. Directly out of bounds. I threw my club after the ball in a fit of pique, narrowly missing some spectators. To my surprise and horror, further adding to my frustration, I was penalized an additional 2 shots for my fine and accurate club toss. Right? I railed and argued that I had not known, further making a fool of myself. But my pleas of ignorance went unheeded. My next shot would be for 8. Forfeit! I screeched in rage, stomping down the fairway with evident exasperation. It's so brilliant, right? I don't know. I just love how they're working this so brilliant, right? All of the expected,
Yes.
behavior, right? The little tantrum. On
Yes.
arriving at my ball, I discovered a lucky break. My ball was lying nicely. Oh, there must be a gap here. Because if she fought with it, uh, she wouldn't have done this. There's a part missing here now, right? So we must be on the next hole now, right? Because she wouldn't have. Anyway, so on arriving at my ball, I discovered a lucky break. My ball was lying nicely, and I have a nice wide gap to easily play through back up the fairway. I had picked up a few commentators for the broadcasts, some of them fairly astute in their observation of my psychological states. They were not disposed. Uh, they were not disposed to keep quiet and proceeded to delineate precisely why I was likely to mess up. I was making them look like wizards with their prescience. A consistent diagnosis coupled with the pressure of absolutely needing to make a really good shot. I was half as far as blowhard. The par 5 was a long one. Yeah, they're on the next hole now. This was a tee shot that we're talking about. 3 manageable shots for my opponent, but 5 really good ones for me now. Likely 6. Or so the experts reckon. They harped on this all the while I walked to my ball, not stopping while I prepared. Their tactic of piling on the pressure visibly getting to me. I lined up my shot, but had to back away. A visible trembling taking hold of me. Oh, 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 came from the crowd, the instigators showing a remarkable creativity. I was shaking now even before getting to the ball. You can do it, constantly coming from Illumina. Unable to deal with the trembles, I rushed to my ball, swinging wildly. I produced another glorious shank, a higher one this time, barely clearing the heads of the gallery, coming to rest in denser tree. On arrival, my ball had been firmly stomped on, only the top showing, with my mark conveniently visible. I hacked at my ball, succeeding to get it out of the ground, but only advancing it a few feet. No forward-moving options presented themselves. The commentators generously remarked that my only viable option was to use my slice to curve around the blocking trees, a zero option, as it was called. But what choice did I have? I lined up. even getting some help from an expert in how to position myself. A difficult shot at my best. In other words, some mansplaining here, right, Beena? The misogyny, they want to see her play badly, but they can't help it.
Yeah.
Also, teaching and educating. Yes, can't help themselves, right? Especially if
Yes.
you're now a commentator, you want to look clever. Right? um, a difficult shot, even at my best. I swung, throwing caution to the wind. I did it by slice, but I found the trees. My ball conveniently bouncing straight back behind me uh, into the crowd again. I found my ball. A repeat burial of my twice dead ball. That's a good creative sentence, right? I found my ball. A repeat burial of my twice dead ball. Very nice. So this time my annoyance at the blatant cheating of the crowd getting the better of me, preventing me from getting it out of the ground. There had been a submerged root behind my ball. Fortunately, I had been deliberately trying to miss, succeeding in exposing the root. I could have received an injury had I not worked. Right? So they didn't only bury this ball, but they buried it meanly as well, right? Maybe knowing it was the more attempts I had, my ball turned out, but now I was lying apparently in our distress, both Illumini and I completely forgot about the unplayable lie rule. If you have a lie that's unplayable, you can drop nearby, not forward. There's some rules of where to drop, but anyway, you can drop the ball and take an extra penalty shot, right? So, but this now her hacking the ball out of the mud, it's unnecessary. She's taking 3-4 shots to get it out or whatever, even if it's 2 or 3, wasting shots. But anyway, so apparently having forgotten this rule, which sometimes amateurs don't know all the rules and they don't know that they can do this and they unnecessarily incur penalty or play extra shots. Apparently, in our distress, both Illumini and I completely forgot about the unplayable lie rule, an option that was duly pointed out to us after the fact. Yeah, very convenient, right? Not ahead of the time, but in glee afterwards. In annoyance, I valiantly endeavored extrication from my bark-festooned prison, finally calling forfeit when I reached 15. Still nowhere near my opponent. Right? I mean, he's only hit one shot, right? She's not even good. Anyway, this is now. Okay. So I must, it is correct here. But except where she calls out forfeit. Yeah. Oh, no forfeit, I screeched out in rage. There we go. All right. Then it makes more sense now. Okay. Uh, Still nowhere near my opponent. Hole 5. Now a must win for me. Another par 3. Right? Because now they've already played 4 holes and she's uh she's 4-0 down out of 18 holes. Yeah. But for the first 9, right? At 5 it starts to get a tipping point, right? So if he goes 5 up, he wins the first 9, right? So hole 5 now a must win for me. Another par 3. Yay. Another par 3. A very short one. Excellent. Blow hard, pushed his shot right and long. I bounced and then rolled through a bunker, coming to rest fairly close to the back placed pin. A lucky shot. Oh, sorry. Blow hard pushed. Oh, it bounced. It bounced. Oh, this is Blowhard's shot. It bounced and then rolled through a bunker, coming to rest very close to the back place pin. A lucky shot for Blowhard. I now faced real danger. He could putt from off the green, a too unlikely but possible. I would have to hit a truly good shot. It's a little confusing here. Yeah. Uh, oh, he's still off the green, but still fairly close to the pin. That's at the back. Right. Anyway, right. That's why he could putt from off the green. He's not on the green. Right. Coming to rest off the green. Off the green, but fairly close to the back place pin. So it's a very lucky shot for him. Right. I would have to hit a truly good shot. I took my time, debating strategy with Illumia, a disagreement about club selection getting the better of us. I knew precisely what I wanted to do, but the betting against me now reaching a frenzy. My defeat all but a certainty. Unbeknownst to me, my delay proved to be most beneficial. Our friends in the ag, having been alerted about the draw on their credit after the losing bet Luminia had made on the first hole, had tuned into what was happening. Knowing my skills, they quickly perceived what was going on. They sprung instantly into action, putting together an extensive cartel to back my plan. Right? You see where this is going, Beena? Right? If you think forward, right? They said, right? Putting together an extensive cartel to back my plan. That extra time allowed them to get huge bets, eagerly taken up by now almost the entire male population on the planet. Right? So they likewise, when they see this big bets coming in for Biella from her friends, right? Uh, they, who think, okay, these must be like super liberals or whatever, idiots thinking that women could play golf. Fine. Hey, we're going to take their money because we know better. We know she's got no chance, right? So they put together cartels themselves to start rivaling these bets, right? Really fascinating, right? Blowhard's lucky shot caused some consternation, but my special friend prevailed on his investors to trust me. It was an easy hole, but even had I been playing purely, the two was no guarantee, right? So even when you're a +6 handicap, the two is never a guarantee. It's not like you make a two every single time. That's not right. Yes, you know uh, on the par threes, that's where you would typically make birdies, but not on all of them, right? On average, so a lot of golf is about averages, right? Very important. I could not rely on Blowhard to make a four. Right? Because he's lying just off the green, and you can putt from just off the green because typically you get the green surface, then you get slightly shorter grass, and then slightly longer. So it depends how far off it was. And typically when players, or even poor players, rather than chip the ball, they'll putt from off the green. It's a much safer shot, right? And he's had lessons, so you'll probably know this, right? So his chance of making a three is fairly good, right? So to guarantee a win, she'll have to make a two. Yes. Uh, I could not rely on Blowhard to make a four. It was a good possibility higher than a two, but still, I had no choice to come through with a really good shot, making a two a solid chance. The hole and back right pin location favored my adopted style of a slice, right? Well, at least in this case now, not a natural style, which is a slight draw, which is a mild hook, right? Slight curve. Anyway, finally, I settled on my club, going firmly against Illuminia's advice. I do, however, follow some genuinely good advice from one of the commentators on how to aim. I aimed way left of the green, trusting in my slice. Despite the obvious logic of this, it seldom worked, as the tendency to swing directly towards the hole is usually too strong for unskilled golfers. Often it resulted in the very opposite, a hook. If you play golf, you'll know what I mean here, right? But okay, you don't have to understand this. Just trust it, right? Perhaps this was what the commentator had been hoping for. I liked this shot. It suited my eye. Staying in character was the hard part. Right as I started my swing, a distract seemed to catch my attention. I zoned out from my swat, swinging beautifully, and connected it purely. My ball flying high, but out to the left of the green. It seemed too far. The left to right cross breeze pushing it perfectly towards the hole, leaving me a 6-foot putt. No guarantee, but I need. The crowd howled again, this time in outrage at my luck, right? Because it's very clear that this was luck, right? Because you see me to get distracted, and then the wind comes and all this, right? Okay. Very, very lucky. Blowhard was feeling the pressure now, but not too much. Regardless of the outcome, he only had to win one more hole to win the match. Oh, they're playing a 9-hole match, not an 18-hole match. Okay, I forgot about that. Okay, so it's he's 4-0. Right, if it gets to be 5-0, the yellow can't win. Right, so she has to essentially win all the rest of the holes. Yeah, it's a very tall order now. Yes, I forgot that this was a 9-hole match. It's somewhat unusual, but all right, whatever reason. Yeah. They made this. I'll have to make a note here somewhere that they'd agreed to this. He was constantly reminded, maybe it's because, anyway. Blowhard was feeling, regardless, he only had to win one more hole to win the match. He was constantly reminded of this by my commentators who succeeded in comedy. He made a decent putt, coming to rest 3 feet from the hole. Now, like I said to you when we were talking about golf earlier, even for professionals, a 3 foot putt is not guaranteed. I think they make them like 65% of the time, something like that. I forget. You can go look up the statistics of it. It's definitely not a guarantee even for professional golf. 3 feet. However, if you really concentrate and you don't mess about, chances of you making it are much higher. It seemed putting was the best part of his game as well. He smiled confidently, having no such confidence in my skill. I was a woman after all. How I emphasize this. I was a woman after all. How well could I putt? He asked to finish out, and I agreed. Now, uh, the way you play is the one who's furthest away is the one who plays first, typically, right? Who's the one who's away. Let me say you're away further. But sometimes you're lying close and you decide, okay, I'm away, you're away, right? But on the green though, when you're putting like that and you come fairly close, you can ask if you can finish out, and the other person can say yes or no. But typically you say yes because otherwise they've got to mark their ball, and that marker may get in your way and whatever. But it's just part of golf etiquette, right? But he's doing this because he wants the pressure now, right? Um, uh, he asked to finish out, and I agreed. He tried to step on my line, but misread my putt, assisting me instead, even though he didn't know it. Now your line from where your ball to the hole is, it's also golf etiquette that you don't step on that line because you're making a little depression temporarily, and it'll rise up again after time. But in your line of your putt, right, you can make your putt go askew. He does this on purpose. Bad etiquette and this not cool. But because he didn't read the line correctly, he helps her. So that's very good, right? He blow hard, right? Even though he didn't know it. Blowhard made the putt. He was in for three, succeeding in putting all the pressure in me. I had to sink this putt or lose everything. Now, this is real pressure. This is for serious real pressure, right? Because not only has Biella bet her money and Illumina her own personal money, but her friends in the ag have now bet considerably as well, right? Okay, she doesn't quite know this yet, but certainly for themselves, right? And also for the intent of the whole thing. If she does lose, it's like the whole thing is a flop here, right? So this is a very real. It's like putting for the grand championships of everything, right? Like you always see in the golf games, the person practicing, oh, it's the Masters putt final, 18 hole, whatever, right? Right? Okay, so this is a very serious putt here. Right now, typically when you have a very serious putt like this, that pressure adds. It makes you more accurate typically, right? You'll see this in really good golfers. The higher the pressure, the greater their skill goes because it leverages them to be really acute and fine, focused, and all that energy goes into it. It doesn't have the reverse effect, yes, like it does on amateurs. It's quite fascinating. And this is what makes professionals is that they thrive on the pressure rather than have it be stressful. Very, very nuanced understanding, but very helpful. I had agreed to blow hard finishing because it was good for me either way. If he missed, the hole was mine. I did not three putt from 6 feet. If he made the putt as he had, the pressure too would be good for me. The more pressure, the more it focused me, having the exact opposite effect to most. It was a vital quality I'd worked hard to attain. Okay, yeah, I explained. I should stop preempting my explanation here, but anyway. Besides, I wanted this birdie. It would go a long way towards justifying my soon to be amazing comeback. A birdie after my worse than atrocious performance would be a miracle. And psychologically, such happenings often did lead to significant changes in play. It would affect Blowhard as well. He had not yet hit any really terrible shots. The few shots he had made had all been better than his usual. The wave of confidence he was riding serving him well. His thorough enjoyment of being the man adding to his play. Right? There's nothing like a good play when you're feeling good and you're feeling confident and everybody's backing you, right? In golf, your psychology and environment is tremendously affected. Yes. It's one of the things that affected me in my game because of my ability to attune to others and having that empathy. I would feel their energy and it would affect my game. So I had to work really hard to not have to. I had an ace up my sleeve. No one had seen me putt yet. I also wanted my putt to be seen as lucky. It was a straight putt, breaking so slightly if putted too softly. Illuminier and I now got into a fiery debate as to the break. The break is how much the ball is going to curve, right? Both of us advocating opposite but incorrect reads, neither relenting. One saying outside left, the other saying outside right. And that means that you're putting just slightly, you're aiming for just to the outside of the hole, right? Either on the right hand side or on the left hand side, right? Both typical overreads. And that's typically, again, what amateurs do. They overread, they read more break than it actually is, right? My forfeits having gained me some extra time. I made innumerable practice shots, doing so as players typically do, staring down at the imaginary ball in front of their putter. Right? I mean, if you imagine, you've seen golf, right, Beena? And you can imagine them putting, right, looking down at the ball and putting, yes? Okay. Anyway.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. I just want to check here. I'm going to check on the story. Right.
No, I'm listening. I'm listening. But
Yeah,
actually, I
yeah,
was
yeah.
not close to laptop, so that's
No,
why I
no,
was
no.
taking
I
time.
realize that. I realize that, and it's fine. I know you're listening. I don't mean that. I want to get your yes here because I want to. I'm just checking my writing here as well. Extra
Oh, yes,
a
yes.
bonus for me, to make sure I'm actually communicating here, right?
Yes.
Staring at it longer than usual. Then I seem to zone out and get stuck staring at the hole. No one knew what was happening, right? So instead of looking down at the ball and taking the practice strokes, right, as down toward the ball as they do, right? See, somehow they'll make a few practice strokes, look at the hole, and then make a few more practice strokes if they are doing it a long time, right? And look at the hole to get their aim right, right? But Biella
Yes.
looks at the hole and she kind of zones out, right? Staring at the hole, like what's going on with her here now, right? What's going on here now? All right, let's see. No one knew what was happening. They simply waited, expecting disaster. Eventually, seemingly on their own, my arms move, and I have the and I hit the ball firmer than, and I give the ball a firmer than needed smack. Okay, so this is uh okay. Never mind. Okay, maybe it'll be explained. I'll explain if not. Right? I give the ball a firmer than needed smack. It raced straight at the hole, crashing into the back of the cup, first doing a little upward bounce that made me believe for a quarter second that I had overdone it, but then it fell back down, straight into the cup. I remained frozen, suspended in time by disbelief, eventually, eventually turning to Illumina and sputtering. But I didn't mean. Little did anyone know that I putted looking at the hole, that I putted looking at the hole like that. Right? This is something I actually do. I look at the hole when I putt. I don't look at the ball. It's very successful for me. It works really well. Right? Again, when I play with golfers, they're always amazed at this. And I said to them, "Can you just toss a ball at the hole, please?" And they do this. Right now, when they take the ball and they toss it at the hole, they look at the hole and toss it. I said, "You see, doesn't change their golf. When you toss the ball at the hole, you look at the hole where you're tossing it to. You don't look at your hand and the ball. Yeah. Why,
Yes.
why, why we putt the other way? I don't know. I putt pretty much just as well looking at the ball. Also, either way is good because you in your mind you see the hole, right? And you're putting like Tiger Woods said this. He says it's like I take a snapshot of the hole and I putt at the snapshot in my mind, right? But anyway, so the fact that they didn't know this, that she did this, allowed her to stare at the hole. She would have done that anyway, but she hams it up. And also, when you're playing a hole with a slight bit of break, the way you can do it to take the break out is to hit it a little bit stronger, right? Then it won't curve, right? If you hit it slowly, the curve is more
Yes.
exaggerated. So speed affects curve. Right? So she does this knowing that she's going to take the break out, which is a sensible way to play it. And from 6 feet, a little bit more hazardous. Like on shorter putts, like 3 or 2 feet, you'll typically do this, but 6 feet a little bit dicey. But nonetheless, for the purposes here, it's that she knows that odds are very high. This is like a very high shot, low risk shot for her. And when the ball bounced like that, that was just a you helping, right? That she did it a little bit too hard. So it really sells that she's overdid it and she hit in panic or whatever, right? And then she adds to it by saying, but I didn't mean. Little did anyone know that I putted looking at the hole like that, right? So they think she was just like spasmed or whatever, right? Finally, Illumineer and I could laugh. We now howled, but with love, danced and skipped and behaved completely inappropriately, transforming from dismal failure to the happiest people on the planet, utterly unaware, to the annoyance of everybody else, that we still had to not lose only one hole. Right? So they still couldn't lose any holes. The crowd was incensed. They had gone from certain victory, already celebrating prematurely, to the nuisance of having to wait one more hole. And worse, Illumineer and I were now inside a happy bubble to which none of their nastiness penetrated. Right. So now this is very craft, obviously. They're utilizing this to change the whole vibe and sell what's coming, right? Blowhard finally blew up on hole 6 and 7, right? Because this is now, that was hole 5. Blowhard finally blew up on hole 6 and 7. This time, him being the one to forfeit, right? Okay, hole 8, another long par 5, even longer than the previous one. A distinct advantage for Blowhard if he played smart. His driver had caused him trouble on the previous 2 holes, going out of bounds twice on each hole, once to the left and once to the right. The commentators and experts unanimously agreed and prevailed upon him to go with a middle to long iron, which would be which would likely be 5 shots to the green, or if he got lucky, 6, maybe 7, if not so good. They pointed out that it would take 6 of my best shots to reach the green. Right, so now, because it's a long hole and he's got the length advantage, or so they believe, right, that this is something they now really, this would be strategy. If you're playing match play like this, excellent strategy, right? You start to do the math, you do the calculation, right? The most likely outcome of 6 for him and 8 for me, giving him a distinct advantage. If only he could put his pride away with the driver. They played his vanity well, pointing out that if he did put away the driver and go with the iron, he would be seen as a hero. Right? Because this is actually very hard to do. Most amateurs can't do it. And when they see somebody do this, they admire it, even though they know they should do it themselves. They don't. It's fascinating. And indeed, the crowd rewarded him with thunderous applause. But as I was the winner of the previous hole, I had the honor of playing first. I was the happy, confident one now. I still looked awkward. My style, my own homebrew, looked slightly awkward even when I wasn't deliberately trying to give that impression. And this is actually something that's also personal to me. Even when I was playing, scratch golf, subpar golf, um, I have it's called a forward press. My hands going not straight in front of me and the club straight. My hands more towards the hole than directly across from the ball. And it looks awkward, but it's actually, there's a lot of logic to it, but I'll explain that another time. I think later in the book when Biella talks to Ursula, she explains this, right? The logic of it. Looking awkward even when I looked awkward even when I wasn't deliberately trying to give that impression. My drive this time went up the right-hand side of the course, but curled back with a hook, landing on the higher right-hand side, bouncing favorably, getting extra roll. Right. So when you hook a shot, it tends to roll further and a slice stops shorter. Just the nature of the way the spin on the ball is, right? So hook shots, bouncing favorably, getting extra roll. Hook shots, because of the way they spin, roll considerably further than slice shots. It was my turn to appear lucky. To the crowd, my best shot of the day. Well, second to the putt. Well, the putt wasn't a good shot. That was an accidental one, right? So it doesn't count as a good shot, right? And this one, a good shot, because that's what you're sort of trying for, right? Illumineer hammed it up with, I didn't know you could hit the ball that far, and such like. If I played to my fullness, the typical drivers would be further than average amateur man. I couldn't push it that far without arousing suspicion. Right? If she suddenly hit the full shot, she could outdrive Blowhard, no problem. But then it would really have started to look suspicious, right? So she had to do it within boundaries. That's why she's hitting the fairway's got a bit of curve, and that's the ideal spot to low, and then you get extra. So all right, yeah, they could buy it. I was probably about 80% of the distance of the way of a typical decent drive of Blowhards, but a bit further than where he would be with his iron. Yeah. So puts him in this nice. Oh, he was in a pickle now. What to do? Be outdriven by a woman or risk disaster with a driver? Right? If the commentators and experts had not been there, assuredly the driver would have come back out. But the crowd had locked him in. When it looked as if he might switch back, a few boos broke out, enough to dissuade him in a hurry. It really was his best option in the circumstances. Now, when I say outdrive, this distance off the tee is a source of great pride and ego for golfers, right? And those that aren't particularly long, they absolutely hate it when other drivers drive further than them. Now, in this case, you'd say, yeah, but he's hitting an iron and you hitting a driver. Why should he feel this? Makes no difference, right? In that ridiculous psychology, right? Being outdriven regardless, you're just further off the tee. It's going to make him look a bit bad. At least in that logic, it's absurd. But anyway, that's how it is. And this is real. It's real. It's really fascinating. The illogic of it, right? Why would you feel bad? But no, it doesn't matter. Right. But the crowd had locked him in. When it looked as if he might switch, a few boos broke out, enough to dissuade him in a hurry. It really was his best option in the circumstances. Besides, as he was frequently reminded, what were the chances of me getting lucky like that 3 or 4 more times in a row? This would have to be in a row. In a row! Exclamation. Now, we proceeded up the wide and generous fairway, me hitting my driver from off the deck, resulting in those nice rolling slight hooks or draws. Now, hitting it off the deck is mean you're playing it off the grass of the fairway because she's actually on the fairway for a change. And you can do this. It's a fairly difficult shot to hit. But sometimes amateurs just do this because they judge it, well, it's further than my furthest shot. So you take your club that hits the longest and they hit the driver, usually resulting in very poor shots. Right? So they think that Biella's doing this out of ignorance, but okay, it still works out for her, right? Uh, Resulting in those nice rolling slight hooks or draws. Blowhard played steadily, each of us going off the fairway twice, neither in any real trouble. Illumina going up ahead to ensure my ball was not tampered. With each successive shot of mine, that wasn't a disaster, the crowd's rage and depression grew. They became quieter and quieter. The unbelievableness of the turnaround unfathomable. The fleet had quietly been bringing in reinforcements, even having a full squadron of thopters available. Wow. Yeah, fleet is on the ball here, right? Illumina had passed the word quietly to the troopers to be on guard, hinting that I might be a lot better than I seemed. Most of them made bets, not over large, but with the odds still so heavily against me, they would get a nice payout with low risk. Just a little niceness, right? Of Illumina, courtesy. Right? You guys are, putting yourselves out there on my behalf. Hey, you know what? Just a little nice thing. My fourth shot took me just over the green, while Blowhard found the bunker. He was not happy, but despite his loathing of bunkers, he managed to get it out in one. But he was now at the front of the green with a very long, awkward putt. I just over the back, with a similar putt from off the green to what Blowhard had on the par 3. Right? So now they already know that this is a similar putt, and the likelihood of Biella putting too is pretty good. Right? The hole played out to form. Me making an excellent 6 in character, and Blowhard making a good 7. Right? So both of us played well, or both of them played well there, but still, Biella gets the hole, right? Luckily, it seems like, okay, like this one also sort of fairly legitimately sort of wins, but, doesn't matter. Now, they're even now, right? Now they at 4 each, right? Another par 3. We were all even now. The game that Illumina always knew I had having come back to me after my miracle putt and transformation, and this really does happen. Right? They are playing badly, they make one miracle putt that's just purely lucky, and suddenly the whole game changes. Of course, then they make a really bad shot at some point, and then it collapses and goes back to that. Right? That's very typical in amateur play. These rapid, these gross ups and downs in their scores. Fascinating. Right? So none of this, like I said, all of this is if you're a golfer, you'll know all of this is very, very real. Right? That I'm not making any of the stuff up here, like all this
Yes.
psychology and this stuff, right? That's why I'm explaining it a little bit, because you know you're not a golfer, right? So anyway,
Yes.
um,
Yes.
the game that Illumina always knew I had, like she's this over positive caddy, right? And of course she's telling you you're good, but over exaggerated, like in character, right? Coming back, right? Uh, um, after my miracle putt. Going into the final and deciding hole, my skill was now seen as similar to Blowhard's, albeit reluctantly. After the anticlimax of the eighth hole and the now very real impossibility of a woman actually beating a man at golf becoming more real by the minute. And not just any woman, but me, the woman that had brought martial law and filed criminal charges against every single man on the planet. This is right. This is an exclamation here. You know, this is like, wow, this is really radical. Right? The absolute unbearable, excruciating pain of this, coupled with the realization that most of them had bet everything they had, very literally, like some even mortgaged their properties, right? The odds working horribly against them now. And a par three, every player knows that no matter how terrible you are, you can hit one lucky shot and land on the green. And this does happen, right? That every now and then, no matter how bad you are, you hit a lucky shot, land on the green, and you make a birdie, right? It happens, right? Or par even, right? So so the odds here of her actually winning now, even even if she is a worse player, if she gets lucky here and blow hard unlucky, that's it, game over, right? So this is a terrible thing, right? The odds working horribly against them now. At the peak, I was 100-1 underdog. Even a relatively modest bet at those odds would wipe out most. Um, uh, I think this is the other way around. These were like the best odds against her, not the worst, right? The worst being favorable for her. Anyway, I have to make that more clear in I edit this. The mood slowly started to turn as these awful truths set in. It was getting ugly. Lowhard was noticing it also, not liking it one bit. I caught his eye. A quick glance at the crowd, then connecting back to him with a grim look in my eye. I made the finger across the neck motion. Now Biella's really sticking it to him and laying it on me, right? But she's got a good reason for doing this, as we'll soon see. So I shouldn't give the story away. I should just read it. But anyway, I'm enjoying explaining the story. I don't know why this one I like to. Anyway, Blowhard visibly paled and looked as if he was about to be sick. Got on his comm and undoubtedly made arrangements for emergency evacuation. Because she's saying, if you lose, this crowd is getting ugly. If you lose, they're going to come and, tear you apart. Yeah. Because this is like really serious. Yeah. These are ugly people. They're not nice people. They're BMNs, right? And part of the hierarchy, even the misogynic culture, is physical violence, men fighting each other when they're wrong in disagreements. So the likelihood that they come and beat him
Yes.
up is very, very high, or worse even. I mean, most of those people, they were so convinced this was easy money to make that they bet everything they had, right? They were absolutely convinced there's no way possibly that he could lose. Now it's a very real possibility. That's why the crowd is starting to turn ugly. And he sees this, and he knows that it's his own fault because he made out he was a lot better than he was, right? So that too will now become apparent. Like, wow, you're not as good as you are. So you basically conned us into this thing, right? You tricked us. It's your fault, right? It's absolutely going to be his fault, backwards and forwards, right? It's not like he just got unlucky and she won. No, it's your fault, right? For making it. Blowhard visibly paled and looked as if he was about to be sick. He got on his comm and undoubtedly made arrangements for emergency evacuation. I saw Illumina making similar arrangements. Yeah, this is very important here. Blowhard was not having an easy time of it on the comm. I delayed as much as I could, watching the play clock. Blowhard remained immersed in his negotiations, or more like pleadings. I stepped up and with too much fanfare hit a simple shot that looked like I had mishit it on the top, producing a ground running ball. The green was open on the front. My ball safely on the green. So she tops the ball, which is very typical for amateur golfers. When you hit it on the top of the ball just runs along the ground, right? And it can go too short, it can go too long, but hers stops luckily on the green. So she has to still keep up with this luck shots, right? So now they're going to really be mad that she wins because of luck. Because if she wins by luck, it doesn't. Their theory still holds, but it's the unfairness that makes them even more outraged and upset, right? You understand what I mean, Beena? In their mind, it will be unfair. Right? They'll still stick with it. Right? Anyway.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. But you'll see how this
Yes.
comes in later, right? There's a longiness to this. There's a moreness, right? You'll see it. The green was open in the front. My ball safely on the green. I had been so casual. Blowhard scarcely noticed. His panic growing noticeably. The crowd getting uglier. They still had hope. Blowhard could come through for them and hit a better shot than I had. Perhaps his turn to make birdie. Blowhard seemed to be making headway with the arrangement, with his arrangements. Um, this must be when the time official called a delay penalty on Blowhard. Right. He did not hear at first or gave no indication. I was astonished, not at Blowhard, but at how it was all playing out. I went into a sort of time trance, seeing each second tick and being able to foresee exactly how it would all play out. That was the moment I realized how I had simply been a cog in a great play. I had done my part. Now the universe was doing its part. Now the universe was doing its part. It was incredible. Blowhard had 2 minutes from the time of the time penalty to play shot or forfeit the hole, and thus the match. Right, so he's not actually getting the penalty. The official actually just called time. Right? Where is this? When the official called a delay, no, he doesn't actually call the delay. Calls time on Blowhard. Right? He doesn't get the penalty yet. He has 2 minutes. Right? I had done my penalty. Right? So Blowhard had 2 minutes from the time of the time call to play his shot or forfeit the hole. It's like a warning, right? From the warning, I should say, from the time warning, I guess. Anyway. Oh. Or forfeit the hole, and thus the match, right? But from the moment I had made that finger across the neck gesture, Blowhard had already given up. He was only interested in running away as far as he could now, because then he realized the pressure and everything. And he doesn't have the skills to rely on. He realizes he's in trouble now, because for him to make a 3, which he'd have to make, well, he'd have to make a 2 to win. A 3 would be a tie, and then they play more. But all right, they play extra holes, so he has to still make a 3 for a poor golfer. This a 3 is like a birdie for a good golfer, right? So he has to play way better than his average, right? Or essentially get lucky, and that's that. When you put your life is on the line, you don't want to risk luck, right? Right. So that's why he sums this up. That kind of Blowhard, they have a shrewdness when it comes to assessing the probabilities of success and failure, especially when their personal safety is involved, right? The cowardice and stuff like this making them very acute at assessing such safety strategies and probabilities. More than a minute of his 2 minutes had passed. The crowd, which had gathered around the green below us, started moving back up towards the tee. It was all in slow motion to me. Blowhard, having finished his negotiations, realizing he now had the 2-stroke penalty, or now the possibility of the 2-stroke penalty. Sorry, the logic is a bit off here. The realization he had lost. The crowd, seeing his realization, the ripple of shock spreading through them, the troopers closing in around us. So there's a little confusion in my writing. You have to clean it up a bit, but nonetheless, right? So he delays and he does get the penalty, right? Because he gets frozen and he doesn't move in time. So anyway, um, the troopers closing in around us. The crowd left us Blowhard as the target for their steadily building rage. Then the timekeeper staring at his stopwatch. Blowhard again, realizing the crowd was coming for him, shouting, "To hell with this! I'm out of here." Blowhard racing away in his cart, and the crowd chasing after him. I saw those last seconds, tick, 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 as the capture next from the Thopters descended. The crowd howling at the escape of Blowhard, turning now to us. Tick, tick, tick. The nets falling slower, the crowd closing. Now, the nets falling slower than the crowd closing. Yeah. And then the crowd closing. The troopers preparing. One more tick. Done. The nets close around us, snatching us to safety as the timekeeper yells, "The match belongs to Biella." Crowd grumbling, turning away from the impenetrable troopers, turning on each other. We left them venting each other in an orgy of pent-up hatred. 1 second! I marveled and continued to marvel. Literally 1 second. That had made the difference, just 1 second. But I had seen the formidable power of trust. It had all been worth it just for that. Because she couldn't be rescued earlier, she had to still be there when the timekeeper called time, right? And give them that. Because if she leaves, then she also forfeits and it would be a draw. Right? So she had to stay there until the time penalty kicked in. Blowhard running away before that because of his fear. So it's a little not clearly spelled out there, but that's why it was, right? So she had to wait until he called it. And by that time, the crowd was climbing in, but the helicopters that, or thopters they call them, that the fleet had sent, they were there hovering, ready to snatch them, right? And they have these snatch nets, which they drop and it closes around you, and with the bottom and pulls you up, right? Very cool. I don't know why the military doesn't use this. I've never seen this. Very simple thing to engineer. It's like those fishing nets that you throw down, and there's like a line around the outside, and you pull on the line, and it makes a bag out of the net, right? Same principle. Anyway, so why they don't use it, I don't know, but the agglomeration, the fleet does use it. Right? I'd seen the formidable power of trust. It had been worth it just for that. Good Bialla's takeaway here now, right? All of that just for that one realization that to have trust, total, absolute, completely impeccable trust, it's a formidable power, right? Of capital P trust. Biella closed her eyes, fully reliving that power, and opened again. Then opened them, seeing Ursula again. Ursula said nothing. What was there to say to such a story? Besides, there was more. She smiled a smile at that, only for herself. All right. The two friends simply existed with each other for a while. Eventually, Biella looked at Ursula, checking for a comment or question. The point was all Ursula said. Yes, said Biella. It was all about the money. Biella started to return, a small grin. My actions, starting with locking myself and Illumina into the egg building, to filing multiple criminal charges against all the men on the planet, to firing all the men working for the egg across the planet and hiring woman replacements, to proclaiming martial law, to finally bringing that army of women prosecutors, all led to massive fines being levied against the men, which they were now unable to pay. Because by the time all of this had done, I need to spell it out a bit better here, right? By the time all this ag stuff had come through, all the investigations and everything, this is long after they'd had to pay their bets already, right? So by the time the fines come, they aren't able to pay the fines, right? And this has a major consequence, right? The result of the match leading to our friends high in the ag, and he and I ended up owning Old Glory. Yeah, because they couldn't pay and they ended up in debt. Yeah, so I have to work out here which comes first, the fines or the debts or the golfing debts, but it doesn't matter. This is the point, right? At the end of all of this, we what we didn't end up directly owning, we bought up as the men as part of the prosecution against them were relocated across the ag into rehabilitation colleges and charity society. They could return if they could prove to the courts that they had changed from their misogynistic ways. The real point, of course, was the woman. The real point, of course, the woman. Yes, nodded Ursula. Understanding having come a long time ago. All right, so how much of the story is there still here? Wow, there seems to be quite a lot still. Oh, yeah, okay. The real point of it, the woman. Yeah. So I'll continue there tomorrow since we're already over time here. Yeah. 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 Okay. So now we get to the whole point of the whole story, right? Anyway.
Yes.
Sorry for my broken reading, Beena. I'm getting too excited and
No, it's okay.
explaining it and everything, but I don't know. I'm sort of doing a
Yes.
capital R reading and the reading all at the same time.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
That's what it is.
I was feeling that.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Now because it's still in edit mode, you see, that's why it prompts me to do that
Yes.
and explain it a bit. Yeah. So, but anyway, it
Yes.
worked
Yes.
out good.
It's okay.
It's a fun story, and we see, I'll fix that last ending there because it's quite a dramatic ending on that last theme. Yes,
Hmm.
with the way it plays
Hmm.
out, and I wanted to do this deliberately. I wanted Biella not to win in the regular way. I wanted to throw a little twist into the story, just as a storyteller fun,
Hmm.
right? She could have won the whole, and okay, you're expecting this, but you're not expecting them to be snatched by the helicopters out of this angry crowd, right? That's like a twist that you don't expect. But the second double twist is that this made the whole thing worthwhile to
Hmm.
Biella. All the stress of it, all the effort involved, just to experience that moment of capital trust, right? And I need to write that in there. As this time is slowly ticking away and the crowd is coming closer, 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 she's watching the time and the timekeeper, and it's going, the cloud tick moving, the timekeeper's clock going tick closer, and she says, I have to trust. I have to stand here until he calls the match in my favor. But the crowd is coming closer,
Hmm.
right? She knows that the copters are there because he can't be missed, right? So it's coming down to a split second, right? Literally 1 second. But she can't know that.
Hmm.
It's very hard to calculate that time. So I'm going to have to elaborate a bit on this. So she has to stand her ground, literally stand her ground, right? She can't move anywhere except up. The crowd's all around her, right? Only way she
Yes.
can go is up. But if the copter's net comes too soon, she forfeits the match. Now they're not going to care about that, right? They have to get her to safety. This is their mandate, right? I mean, they can't allow
Hmm.
her to get thing. Now, of course, they can't snatch her if there's not real and apparent danger, right? So as the crowd is going after Blowhard, okay, it's not after Biella so far, okay. But then when Blowhard gets away, yeah, because he's got his cart and they don't. Now it switches to her and Illumina, right? And so now
Yes.
they have to just trust, right? And that's the magic of it. And the slow motion perception of Biella's, she can see it happening in the slow motion time. Tick, the cloud comes closer. Tick, the net drops. Tick, the cloud comes closer. Tick, the net drops, right? Tick, the timekeeper raises his finger, right? Tick, the timekeeper drops his finger. The match goes to Biella. Tick, crowd comes right almost within reach.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes. Yes.
and
Yes. Yes. You
tick
shared that
the
in the
net.
story.
Right, right. I'm going
Yes.
to elaborate it a bit more though. And then at that
Hmm.
tick, the last tick, boom, the net closes, snatch, crowd closes where they are, right? Grabbing at them as they get pulled away, right? Just for the extra drama of it, right? Because I have it in my mind, and I think I said enough that you could visualize it, but I want to write it more dramatically a little bit, right? For the writing part of it. If this was a TV show or a movie, then it would be I don't have to elaborate that much, right? But for the writing part of it to really lay it out. So anyway, I really like that ending of this part, right?
Hmm.
Where it comes, because you kind of know where it's going. You know Biella's going to win, yeah. And okay, when you have a
Yes.
story where you know the result and you give that expected result, it's okay and it's satisfying, right? But I find it more satisfying when you have this tweak. She still wins, but in a nice dramatic way, right? Explosion at the end, or the equivalent of an explosion, right? Yeah. So,
Yes.
and also the sort of just desserts of it, of this ugly crowd basically beating each other up. Right? Now they won't kill each other, but they certainly will beat each other up, as literally happens. Right? I mean, you can see this in like fights after a match where the home team loses, right? And then the crowd, and they fight against
Yes.
each other. Yeah? So it's not an unusual thing, but in that particular culture, it's probably even worse. But yeah, serve you right for being horrors, right? Serve you right of just desserts. And now you can't wish for it, of course, but if it happens, well, okay. I won't complain about it either. You know? So anyway, very interesting, right, Beena? Very interesting how it all works out.
Yes.
And what I
Yes.
particularly enjoy is, yes, the story is fairly well written as well, or at least I think it's well written. I mean, of the editing now, I'm saying, right? But what I like about the story is that you have an improbable end. You have a whole improbability, but it's all feasible, right? Every step along the way adds to the feasibility and the realness that you can believe this could have happened. Yes, Beena? Right?
Yes. Yes.
And that's important to me. That, yes, a lot of stories ask you to suspend disbelief. Yeah. But to suspend disbelief, you've got to use that cautiously. All right. So when you've got a science fiction story and you've got to say, well, they traveled faster than light, whatever, they used a warp drive. That's suspending disbelief because according to our current understanding of technology, that's impossible. It doesn't matter. But you need to suspend disbelief on that so that you can have the story of them interacting on a different planet or whatever. Otherwise, that's not possible. And you don't get that aspect of science fiction. So you say, okay, I'll buy this, even though I know it can't be true, because otherwise I won't have the fun of them interacting with aliens on the other planets and all this, right? So, okay, do that. And it makes sense, very reasonable. But the rest of the story now needs to be plausible and that, right? So in the same way, yeah. So for me, stories that are improbable but not plausible are poorly written. Yes, improbability happens, but you've got to show how that improbability comes about. And that is skill in writing, right? To show how the improbable happens. Because if we look around in our own lives, how often doesn't the improbable happen? Or sometimes even the impossible. We know it happened, but you try and explain it to somebody else and say, nah, come on, you're pulling my leg. You're having me on. That couldn't have happened this way. Come on, that's not real. Right? And how many times haven't you found yourself in that situation? I don't know if you have necessarily been it, but well, I think with your pencil story when you were a little girl, yes, you weren't able to explain it, right? They had gotten the
Yes.
improbable, right? So you know this from
Yes.
first hand and with a negative part of it, right? But again, had you
Yes.
been able to explain it, they still might not have believed you. Yes, yeah, come on, you're just saying that to get out of trouble. So to be able to accurately describe the improbable in a way that is feasible, believable, and acceptable is a great skill, and it makes for great fun in storytelling because we love stories about the improbable, and we want to know that the improbable can happen, right? Because this gives us confidence in that happening on our benefit. In other words, magic happening for us, right? And that's really
Yes.
what it amounts to, right? We want to know that the improbable can happen and does happen and feasibly so. Very, very important part of storytelling. Very, very important. Very, very. All right. On that magical note there, did you enjoy the story, Bina? Any comments?
Yes. 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 Of course, I'm going to share it later.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Still, we have to wait. Still, we have to wait. All right. Oh, yeah, let's up. Yeah. Bina's building up suspense here. Being crafty like
No, no,
Bina.
no, it's not like that.
Oh,
No,
I know. I'm just
but
teasing you. But
yes, I'm just thinking it and
yeah.
of course
Yeah.
perceiving it
Yeah.
as much as I can.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a powerful story. It's a very powerful story. It's a very cool story. I mean, it's fun. It's a lot of fun, right? I mean, in the way they essentially kind of tease Blowhard. I mean, okay, he deserves it, right? And the way they're hamming it up and all the strategy involved. It's a lot of fun in the story, but there's a moreness to it, of course, right? I mean, I can't write stories without having that moreness. Very cool, Beena. Very cool. Just the way I write, there's always that moreness underlying. I was thinking, by the way, of, oh, I've completely forgot about the Because Norma didn't come, and I was going to explain it to Norma. Uh, but since he didn't come, I didn't explain it. So anyway, um, uh, about the excitement of the podcast. But all right, we'll leave that for tomorrow or another. Isn't that interesting? I completely forgot about it. Beena? Yeah, are you still there? No. I think it's kind of wild. Completely forgotten about that.
No, I was
Um,
just talking. Yes, yes.
okay. I'm just saying, I completely forgot about that. Yeah, to mention that at all. But when appropriate, another time. And we'll finish the story tomorrow, and then we can go over on Friday because Thursday we won't. So it all works out very nice. Oh, that's what I was about to say to you. So in thinking about the podcasts and published works and all this, right? I mean, I have the two books that are published, but I also have uh, I've got a couple of short stories published, but some of them were on online magazines and stuff like that. But actually, in a physical hardcover book or paperback book, I have a story published, right? It's in that anthology compendium, and it's the story of the cosmos, right? I forget the name of the cosmos, right? That whole huge story. I read it to you, I think, yeah. Oh, there's been a drop. All right, never mind. Anyway, I just wanted to say that I forgot all about the story and I was remembering it last time. So maybe we'll read that story on Friday. Yeah, because I need to refresh on all of it. So all right, Beena, if you're coming back, I'll re-put up Zoom, but I'm going to end the meeting here now. All right, so you see everybody tomorrow. If anybody listening, for the conclusion of Biella's Golf World Adventure, right? Because there's important parts to come. It's cool. All right. End meeting for all. There we go. Cheers, everybody.